A man yells at a student and asks what she is doing there. He says it's dangerous and orders us to come down immediately. He says that she might fall. The woman says the weather today is too nice to die. The girl says that no one talked about death. The girl says she sees something below and asks what it is. The man says it's floating away and will carry him away completely. The woman says it's true. The guy asks what's going on down there. The guy says there can't be a person inside that thing, and the man says it's moving in that direction. The girl is in shock. She looks at the water and the rock in the foreground. On the bridge, from right to right, a group of people are watching a huge iceberg emerge from the water. And inside the iceberg there is a man named Chokeru. A leg is shown on the edge of a cliff. The girl says there is nowhere left to retreat. The guy screams, "Die already," as he jumps with a sword at a group of attackers. Chokeru breaks the ground while fighting off 6 spear-wielding attackers. The man reports that it's all over. Chokeru says he wonders how long this has been going on. The man says it wasn't 3 days, but rather 4, and that he even stopped smelling blood. Chokeru delivers a powerful blow, creating a blast wave that strikes enemies around him. He says we need to end this. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he will die. He explains that he can't afford to die. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword, creating a wide arc. Trees begin to fall and break, causing an explosion and flying debris. The boy screams in pain as he and the other warriors are thrown apart by a powerful blow with a red and black trail. Chokeru says rest in peace. Chokeru reports that they were all slaughtered. He says that in total there are 300, and that who would have thought that he would paint the waterfall red with the blood of the murderers. The man says he is truly impressed. He says that Chokeru actually lived to become the greatest swordsman in Goryeo. The man reports that he now sees Chokeru's death. He says that Chokeru knew that one of his swings would be his last, and that the poisoned blade had already pushed his body to its limits. He says it's a pity, and asks if a woman is really more valuable than life. Chokeru says, "Shut up." The man says it's time to end this Chokeru. Chokeru says what's going on. Chokeru says he can't let this happen, and explains that if he doesn't stop it now, no one will be able to. The woman says she can't look at it. The man shouts, "No." Chokeru says he can finally see his face. He looks into the face. Chokeru says he can't believe it. The man says Chokeru looks happy. He says he's leaving, he's won. The moment of a splash or explosion in water is shown. The man reports that he hasn't seen the creature that emerged from the ice since the time of Dully. The man asks about the results of the creature's age determination and explains that it came from somewhere during the Goryeo dynasty. Jung Sung-yeon says that a world where cryogenic humans exist may be coming sooner than they thought. Jung Sung-yeon is the director of the research team at DLS, a secret intelligence service directly under the president. He says that Chokeru is too well preserved. The man says he has a feeling this could end badly and asks if Chokeru really needs to be tied so tightly. Another man explains that the first wouldn't have said that if he had seen the medical evidence. The man reports that Chokeru's body is incomparable to modern humans and so different that it can hardly be classified as the same species as them. He explains that many more tests need to be performed, but each result they obtain is simply incredible and calls the subject a truly mysterious creature. The man explains that it should be treated with caution, since, in a sense, it is a gift from ancestors to future generations. The man says the president has high expectations too, but whether it's a gift or a disaster will only be known after it's unwrapped. The man says, okay. The man says, it's just funny. The man says he drives better when his hand is like this and comments on how great it feels. The woman asks if that's why he grabbed her thigh. The guy says what happened. The girl asks what all the fuss is about. People crowded along the sidewalk with phones in their hands. A man screams in surprise. A boy runs down the road, away from a red car. He says it was freaking weird and says they were going 80 kilometers an hour and this guy overtook them. The guy says, "How the hell did he get ahead of us?" Chokeru yells for the turn signal to be on. The man behind the wheel brakes sharply to avoid hitting the guy who fell onto the road. A massive car crash occurs at an intersection. One of the cars flips over and a person runs out of the accident zone. The man shouts, "Where are you running, you crazy bastard?" Chokeru runs down the road. The woman says maybe she should call the police. The man asks what he is, some kind of Superman, and the girl tells him how much money it will all cost. Chokeru runs barefoot down the street among passers-by. He says he's not going to stop. A man runs on a street among tall buildings and looks up. He runs and remembers moments of his life. Chokeru jumps between police cars, screaming. A police officer tells citizens to keep moving. Another officer says it's an order from above. The man says that they responded to the request, but it is not under their jurisdiction and asks how they ended up here, and also orders that this man be brought in. The man tells Mr. Chokeru to stop. Chokeru turns slowly. A man in uniform tells him to calmly go with them. Police say that if they refuse, it'll be difficult for them and others. The officer tells Kim to grab Chokeru, to which Kim replies, yes. Chokeryu's thoughts are running through his head. The woman reveals that she is one of Okiyan's subordinates. Chokeryu says they are trying to lure him into a trap. The man says that this is not just a doll, but a weapon capable of destroying an entire city. A male police officer reports that he is firing a gun, and that bullets and electrical discharges are flying out of the gun. Chokeryu shows a sign with 2 fingers from which an electric discharge comes. He says that if he is not mistaken, then this device that he made is capable of blocking electricity. Chokeryu experiences a powerful release of energy, accompanied by the sounds of electrical discharges. The sergeant says they are idiots and asks why they are all shooting at once. Chokeryu reports that an electric current is passing through his hand. Chokeryu suddenly rushes forward, and several pistols fly out of his hands. Chokeryu says that do they really think that something like this can hold him back? The police are literally flying off. A woman, a man, and a young man stare at the phone screen in surprise. The man says it's impossible and explains that such a thing can't happen. Chokeryu lands a powerful punch, knocking both men back. The man on the ground tries to defend himself, but doesn't have time. He says there is only one way to escape. This is a special forces unit and orders everyone to retreat. He crashes into the asphalt, breaking it around him. The car suddenly takes off into the air, raising dirt and stones. Chokeryu suddenly pushes off the side of the building and launches himself into the air, creating a powerful burst of energy that causes a strong impact on the ground and shakes surrounding cars. A Special Forces soldier looks at him from his car. Young Min-woo shouts, asking what's going on. He's the director of the National Intelligence Service. The man says they were prepared but did not expect such serious events and asks for forgiveness. The man says the damage will be catastrophic and the police and special forces are powerless. The man says that it is now clear that this creature is on a completely different level from them. Chokeryu stands on the edge of a tall structure. The man says the president is about to say the same thing and asks if he's sure it's time to say it now. The phone screen shows a news report about a reckless man being attacked on the road in a scene of complete chaos. The man says that the other person is too tense. The man says he will take full responsibility. The man says that in the end, Chokeryu is just a man from the distant past. He reports that Chokeryu will be powerless against modern firepower. The image shows a helicopter in flight. Chokeryu stands with his back to the ground, tearing the fabric in his hand against the backdrop of 4 helicopters flying. Only bare feet on the ground are shown. Chokeryu says he's not going to surrender. The special forces point their guns at him. Chokeryu holds the handrail. Chokeryu says that he should also respond appropriately. He says he can't lose. Chokeryu says he can't afford to relax because his life depends on it. The commander reports that this is a machine gun, a weapon that rendered warriors like Chokeryu powerless. The man says that if he resists, he will simply die. The man says that, as expected from Chokeryu, he is not going to back down, and adds that this is very. The man asks what Chokeryu is doing there. The man asks if Chokeryu knows who they are. Chokeryu is holding something in his hand. He says, let's see which one of them dies. A man holds a gun with both hands and prepares for action. The man says, it can't be. The man says Chokeryu turns out to be an interesting guy. He says that then we need to try this. He pulls the trigger of the gun. The man says to stand. The guy in the helicopter says to leave it to him. The sound of a beating heart accompanies Chokeryu. The man announces that he has arrived. The man explains that now everything depends on him. The man advises to keep a distance and be extremely careful. The guy says he apologizes for the late greeting. The man says that he is Kang Chik-han, the representative of this nation and its president. The president reports that everything is fine and orders everyone to lower their weapons and retreat. Chokeryu says that by representative he means the emperor. Kang Chik says that it will be clearer this way. The man first apologizes and then says he's sorry for the way Chokeryu was greeted. The president says he welcomes them and informs them that this place is their future, but for them, the present is South Korea. The president says he is confident they have much to discuss. The man offers to escort Chokeryu to a more comfortable place. Chokeryu says that in a convenient place means the special forces look on in shock at Chokeryu. Chokeryu is preparing for something. He delivers a powerful blow with his sword to the man. The man says it was Chokeru. He says the key to escape is the art of illusion. The man says it was Chokeru again. He says the key to escape is the art of illusion. The man begins to speak a word, pausing at the first part. The man says they need to shoot or they will all die, and warns that if anyone tries to escape, he will open fire. A man commands the soldiers to fire on command. 3 soldiers prepare to fire. A man raises his hand up. The man says to stand. The president says he is perfectly fine, and the man shouts, asking if the president is alive. The man says it did look like his head had been cut off and that the guy had definitely swung with that intention. Chokeru says that he was mistaken. He says it was no accident. Chokeru looks from under his brows. This woman is the greatest. The man says he didn't hear because of the wind and asks what was said. He says the goal has been made so meaningless. Chokeru gathers his strength. He delivers a powerful punch, smashing the ground with his fist and causing destruction around him. He then rips off his outer clothing, standing with his back to the 2 helicopters. Chokeru clenches his fist. He says this place is actually real. This is reported to be the president's secret hideout. The image shows a plate with sliced meat and vegetables. Chokeru is silent, his head bowed. A man sits next to him and talks to him. Behind the Chokeru stand 3 men in suits. The man says that this place is usually empty, but now it has become more useful than ever, and says that you can call it a secret base. The man says these are all dishes from their time and invites them to try them. Chokeru says that then and now, food is still food. The president says, does this mean they have finally accepted what is happening? The man reports that the chokers have jumped back in time by 800 years. The man says he feels more or less better, and Chokeru says it's a big relief. He reports that everything is fine. The president says that in their age, such wounds were incurable. Chokeru says he believes he is alive because of this time. Chokeru says that, in other words, he performs some action. Chokeru reports a clicking sound. The man says he may not fully understand Chokeru's feelings, but asks her to try not to worry too much. The man says that if Chokeru doesn't eat, he won't have any strength. The dishes on the table are shown. The man says that he needs to eat. Chokeru asks for assistance. The man says he's the director of national intelligence. The man in the suit says, I understand, Mr. President. The man in the suit says it looks like a movie was filmed here. An Kyung-tae reports that Chokeru ran alongside the cars, had some kind of superpower and seemed to fly, and also says that there are rumors that this is the same person who was in the glacier on the Han River. The man reports that this has become a topic of public discussion recently and confirms that everything is correct. A man reports that a glacier that appeared on the Han River contains a mysterious figure within. He explains that it seems to be connected to a recent incident in the city, and rumors circulate that it is supposedly a superhuman. Surprisingly, it all turned out to be a movie set. The man asks what he's talking about. Everything that happened was just a staged performance, and reports that they cannot reveal the truth to the public. The man in the back is also watching the scene. The man says, it's a man made of ice. It's something in the future that could exist even hundreds of years from now, and it tells us how many amazing advances can be made beyond just life extension. He says that many countries have tried to achieve this, but no one has yet succeeded in this area. The man reports that the most important part is missing, the freezing technology. The man reports that success was achieved before them. The men in suits look at each other tensely. The man asks to let them study Chokeru, but he refuses. The man explains that this place is the headquarters where all the leaders gather. He explains that important issues are discussed here and decisions that affect the future are made. Chokeru opens the door. Chokeru says he's leaving. Men in suits are blocking the entrance. The man says it's clear. Chokeru, I grab your hand. The man says that then their friendship will also come to an end. Several men fire sniper rifles at the same time. The man says he thinks Chokeru will have to be euthanized. The man says that although he has withstood police teasers, he would never be able to withstand tranquilizer darts strong enough to knock down an elephant. The man is looking. The image shows multiple darts piercing a person's body. The image shows the process of inserting a needle into the body. Darts are scattered on the ground in front of 3 men, and a shaking or thumping sound can be heard. Chokeru silently clenches his fist. He throws out several throwing flowers, knocking the 2 men back. The man says to increase the power. The man says there's no way they can let him escape. Chokeru says that if he fails to complete the task, he will die. The man says that if he fails to complete the task, he will die. The man says that if Chokeru doesn't surrender, they will be forced to use force. Chokeru says he has no intention of surrendering and is ready to accept the challenge. The man explains that they have no choice but to stop Chokeru by any means necessary. A man strikes a man with a baton. The man says Chokeru should have simply agreed to cooperate. The man says that as soon as they touch you, you will experience death. A man strikes Chokeru on the back with a stick, accompanied by the sound of impact and sparking energy. The man says this thing is 10 times more powerful than the teaser. Chokeru says that if he can't stop this, no one can. The man in the center says, "Let's do it again." The men on the right and left are preparing to attack with batons. The man strikes Chokeru with a stick, who stands still and offers no resistance. The man continues the attack, lunging forward with the stick in his hands. He says that if they can't stop him, he will destroy them all. The men say they won't let that happen and are ready to fight to the end. He calmly continues to move forward despite the attacks. Chokeru says he has no intention of giving up. Several men with sticks are preparing for a fight. 3 men in suits hold spears and look at a man walking towards the gate. The man says they eventually lost him. The man says they need to find another way because it's simply impossible to capture him by force. Chokeru asks if his location has been tracked yet. The man says the creature is beyond their comprehension and a large-scale search may be necessary. The man reports that the location has been determined. The man asks what. The guy says what it is, and at the same time asks where he is. Chokeru says he is where he is very easy to spot. He reports that it is on the roof of the tallest building. Chokeru stands and looks up. The sound of a helicopter is heard. The man says he just. Chokeru says someone jumped, which means nothing to him. He says that he cannot allow himself to die because he has a purpose that he must fulfill. The woman says she can't wait any longer and must leave now, otherwise she won't be able to return. She says this goodbye is forever. The woman says that she will disappear and asks not to forget her. The image contains no text or speech, only a man standing with his back to the image. The man says he is not afraid of death and that he will always be there. Chokeru kneels in the snow, resting his face on the hilt of his sword. A man falls from a roof while a helicopter flies above him. Chokeru says he can't allow himself to die because he has a goal he must fulfill. The man says he doesn't intend to die either and that they both must keep fighting. The image contains no text or speech. He lies on his back, spread out over the city as if floating or falling. Chokeru says that if he can't protect himself, he won't be able to protect others. He says he has no intention of giving up and intends to keep fighting. A man falls from a height above the city at night. A close-up of a man is depicted on a building with the words, "Visionary," and the text, "Checkmate," written on it. Chokeru says he can't believe this happened and says everything will change now. A man claims to be a visionary. Chokeru looks down silently. The image does not contain speech bubbles or text for retelling. A guy hangs upside down with Chokeru's face in the background. He says he is Chokeru Gum's bodyguard. Chokeru says he was able to save her. He says, "You need to watch." Chokeru says family members kill each other, captivated by illusion. A man announces that the full moon has finally risen. A girl prays with her eyes closed. Chokeru reports that the destruction has begun. He tells Ryugan to fight until the very end. The man says he will destroy everything in his path. Chokeru says he can't allow himself to die because he has a goal he must fulfill. The man explains that he will live to see this goal come true. A man claims to be a visionary. Chokeru says he can't allow himself to die because he has a purpose he must fulfill. He explains that if he dies, everything he's done will be in vain. A man falls from a great height down the street. The image shows outstretched arms with open palms, from which sand or small particles are pouring out. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he will die. He explains that he can't allow himself to die because he has a purpose for which he must live. The guy rises into the air, surrounded by a whirlwind. A man takes a step. Chokeru stands on the roof of a building. The man looks at his phone screen. He reports that he is a visionary. Chokeru says he can't afford to be weak. The man shouts that it is coming from the roof. The man on the right says that everything is correct. The man in the center asks what happened to him, and the man on the left says that they need to find the body. The man says he can't afford to lose a single person and asks for understanding. Chokeru says he can't accept it and expresses outrage. President Kang Chik-han reports that, fortunately, a witness was found nearby and asks what he said. Chokeru says he is a visionary. The woman says she can't believe it happened and that she can't believe he's gone. The man explains that there was nothing he could do and that he tried. The man tells Yu Yeon-woo. The man reveals that he is a world-class movie star and is famous throughout Korea. It is reported that his acting skills were outstanding even in his youth, and the whole world was stunned by his bold action scenes. He is reported to have been noticed by directors in both the East and West, leading to countless box office hits. Added to this, it is reported that his striking appearance attracted a huge fan base, making him as popular as a real idol. The stock price of his agency grew endlessly, and he even raised the country with it. The guy says that he is a real superstar and can even be called a great man. Chokeru says he can't understand how anyone could not know Yu Yan Woo. The man says that's why his face is glowing all over the place. He says that you could say that too. The guy says he can't afford to lose. Chokeru says that since he is also in this time, there are only two possible options. He says that either it's just someone who looks very similar to him, or it really is the person he knows. Chokeru says he hopes for the latter option. He says he needs to meet this guy right now. Chokeru informs that it is impossible to meet with him. The man says that. The guy tells him that the person he's talking to isn't just a celebrity, but a superstar, and asks how he can meet a celebrity. The man thinks the person is crazy. The guy explains that if he works as a security guard at the airport, he might get lucky, but he'll have to wait forever. The man says that forever. Chokeru breaks the glass with his fist. He says to figure out how to meet him immediately. The man suddenly bursts into the room, breaking the door. Chokeru says he means no harm and asks to simply tell him the truth. The boy begs for mercy and asks if that's really the case, and begins to explain that even if there is a way, it's currently impossible. He reports that he recently read an article about him going abroad. The image contains no speech bubbles or characters, only the Statue of Liberty and buildings in the background. Consequently, there is no retelling of the speech or actions. Chokeru says he was made to believe. The man says he trusted them. The man says, "Ah." The man punches Chokeru, who turns his head to the side. The man says that this is no place for him and orders them to leave, explaining that this concerns their organization. The man asks what the next line is again, and Chokeru apologizes. The woman says Mr. Yu's filming schedule was incredibly difficult to coordinate and asks how many takes he's already ruined. The man explains that he feels like he's doing it on purpose and says he's acting so pompous and arrogant even though he has no reason to. The man says that things are bad and he seems very angry. Chokeru asks what. He tells James that this can't go on. The man says, "Let's do it from the other side," and explains that if they hit him on that side again, he won't be able to say his lines. Chokeru says, "Okay, let's try again." The man says he doesn't understand what's going on. The man says, "What?" Chokeru throws the man to the floor, destroying the chandelier in the process. The guy says he can't afford to lose. A man asks what just happened, and another man asks if everything is okay. The man speaks more carefully. Chokeru asks if Mr. Yu is okay. The man says that, fortunately, they escaped the worst and expresses relief. The man laughs and says he should probably go to the hospital. The image shows a hand wrapped in bandages. There is no text or speech. The man says that Chokeru is really something and asks how he even came up with the idea to expose himself like that. The man says he's fine, but many staff members were injured and asks if he should share this with the hospital staff. Chokeru says that because of him, the entire filming schedule was disrupted and asks Hyun to forgive him. He says, if not this, then what? The guy asks, what then? The man says, well. The guy shouts that he doesn't believe what he heard and asks what was said. There are no speech bubbles or text in the image, so there is no retelling. The man thanks everyone for their hard work and announces that he has one more meeting, so it's time for him to leave. The man says there shouldn't be any strangers in this place. The man explains that if anyone enters here, it will mean they've broken the rules. The man says he won't allow anyone to enter here. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he will die. The man asks if this is Mr. Chokruk gone. Chokeru says it's impressive as always and says he's probably the only one who can come here freely and leave just as freely. The man says it's somewhat reassuring to see them in this state and reports that he was so scared yesterday. The text states that the action takes place 9 hours ago. President Kong Chik-han is sitting at his desk. The man reports that 1,000 cases of the disease were recorded in South Korea in 2015. Chokeru says the cooperation offer is still valid. The man says he expected to return, but assumes his interlocutor had conditions. Chokeru asks if they are accidentally connected to this person and reports that everyone knew this. He says not to ask why, but to arrange a meeting with someone who is abroad as soon as possible. President Khan says that if the other party can promise his full cooperation, a woman says that there were no handshakes in the Goryeo dynasty, then makes the sound, ah. The man says that this is unlikely. The man asks when he can see him. The man says the other man would prefer it to happen sooner rather than later, explaining that even the president won't have an easy time of it as the distance to him is over 30 million Chokeru. Chokeru confirms and says, He says that, in that case, let's go inside. The man says he is honored, Mr. President. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he won't be able to return to his hometown. He says that he doesn't mind if the other person wants to say something. Chokeru says his schedule has changed anyway. The man thanks him for arriving so quickly and asks what's wrong with Chokeru's arm. Chokeru explains it's just a slight sprain. He says it's nice to meet you. Chokeru says that if he can't get what he wants, he'll leave. The man says that in that case, he'll leave too. The guy asks if this is Chokeru Gon. Yu Yan-woo says he's glad to meet her and introduces himself, and Chokeru says he's the national hero the president mentioned. Yu Yan-woo says he heard about appearing in a commercial together, and Chokeru says it's a true honor. The man suggests that since they have finished introducing themselves, they sit down. He says that Mr. President. The man says that this man is incredibly strong. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he won't be able to protect those he cares about. He says he doesn't feel any ki at all. The guy says he's asking for forgiveness. The man says he will step away for a moment and invites Chokeru and the girl to sit down first. The man reports that reserve troops are standing by. He says he understands and adds that it's worth watching for now. The man says they also need to go to the bathroom. Chokeru says this meeting is necessary to understand why it was. He says that even the tea is different in the blue house and suggests trying it. Chokeru says they are not feeling well. He takes a cup and saucer. Chokeru says Chokeryuk Gon. He says that he can't let the girl stay alive and explains that if she dies, no one will know that he killed her. Chokeru says that if he can't find a way to keep her from dying, then he himself will die. He says that's how he survived. Chokeru says, "Oh my God." He says that you can't tell from the man that he is glad to see him. Chokeru says he's asking if it was fun. He says that if he's not mistaken, this place is the headquarters of the organization that governs this entire city. He explains that all important issues are decided here and key decisions are made. The man reports that he has completely hidden his ki and has mastered this skill. The man says that if you kill him here, you won't get anything out of it and asks you to kill your lust for murder. The man says that there is nothing in this world that money cannot buy. Chokeru says that he understands that the other person does not. He says that being transported to the future was his trick. The man says he couldn't pull off something like that in size. Chokeru says he will ask one last question and hopes it will be answered honestly. He says that the lady is here too. Chokeru says not to say it so threateningly. He asks if the interlocutor is talking about the lady he was accompanying. The man says that if he can't do it, no one can. Chokeru reports that the coffee has spilled. He destroys the table, sending its fragments towards the man. The man is thrown back by the impact. Chokeru says, "Oh." A man sits on a chair, covering his face with his hands, as explosions occur around him. A powerful explosion occurs, accompanied by the scattering of stones and dust. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he will die. He says that if he can't handle it, no one can. Chokeru says it doesn't matter. He says it's weird. Chokeru says it has always been like this. He says he will catch. The man says we need to wait a minute. The man says that his interlocutor apparently doesn't care at all, but he can be sure that no one will disturb them. Chokeru says that he has divided the place using illusions and explains that from the outside it will look like a reunion of two old friends. He announces that he is not going to give up and rushes forward. Chokeru says to stop talking nonsense. He says that if he can't find a way, he will die and that he doesn't want to die. Chokeru says that he will only know for sure when he checks, and the man asks what kind of nonsense he is talking about. He says that all this time he has been hiding his chi so well, and if we take into account what was said, he was unable to hold back the chi leak when he was defending himself. Chokeru states that he cannot allow himself to die because he has a purpose for which he must live. He says it's quite impressive for someone who has just awakened. Chokeru says he didn't expect it to be you. He stabs a woman in a red dress with a scythe, causing blood to spurt from her head, and a woman in white sits next to her. The image shows the moment a man falls backwards with blood pouring from his head. The woman says he embarrasses her. Chokeru says that Mr. OK Yan has become incredibly famous in this world after taking the name Yu Yan Wu, and that he is currently disguising himself as him and doing some work for Mr. OK Yan's incredible plans. The woman says she has a weekly report to submit, and she will be sure to include big news. The woman says he'd be very happy. Chokeru says that if this is not stopped now, it will be too late in the future. The woman says that they will be rewarded if they bring him to Mr. Ok-yeon. Chokeru says to take it, after which there is a collision and a fall. He strikes the woman lying on the floor with his staff, surrounded by flames and sparks. Chokeru says the girl was wagging her tongue for too long. The woman says that if he wants, she can tell him how to do it. Chokeru says that releasing such a quantity of ki with a body that has been unconscious for a long time is a one-way ticket for the body. He hits the opponent with the bat. The woman says he judges her by himself. Chokeru delivers a powerful blow, knocking back several opponents. The woman says she can't die because she wants to see him get stronger. Two men lie unconscious on the floor, dark smoke coming out of their bodies. The woman says he should kill her, then curses. The man replies, no. Chokeru says that if she doesn't want to die, she must obey. He says that on that day, Chokeru reports that the girl fell from a cliff with a fatal injury. The woman says she thought she was dead and sighs. The girl reports that when she woke up, the world was different from what she knew. The woman says that when she woke up hundreds of years later, she knew and understood nothing, but soon realized that this was the work of Mr. Ok-yeon, who gave her the opportunity to live in this present. There is no text or speech in the image, so it is impossible to describe actions or communication. The man says he wants to know if this means that this bastard was here before Chokeru. The woman says that Mr. Ok-yeon values me. Chokeru throws a punch towards the man. He says that if he can't open his eyes, he won't be able to see what's going on around him. Chokeru hits a woman with a stick, causing her to fall to the floor. The woman says she has a cough. The man says it's a shame if anyone actually believes Ok-yeon saved him. Chokeru asks what he's talking about. He asks how long the woman has been here. The woman remains silent. Chokeru speaks when the interlocutor's body began to rot. The woman says that if she can't cope with this, she won't be able to live anymore. Chokeru hits the door with a stick. The woman jumps back. He says he smells rotting. Chokeru says that most likely this bastard pretended to save the girl, but in reality he used a technique that will send her to the grave when she fulfilled everything he planned. The woman says Mr. Ok-yeon would never do such a thing, and she has never heard of such a technique. Chokeru says it's a rare technique that few people know about. He says that it seems like she is not that needed in the future, and the girl calls him a bastard. The woman tells him to think about why he should hide the truth and force him to do petty work with disguise, and then explains that there is no other use. The woman reports that everyone has died and explains that she is now the only one left in this place. The image does not contain speech bubbles, only an image of a frightened or aggressive creature grabbing another person's hand. The woman says she can't die because she has a son and asks him not to kill her. The man explains he doesn't intend to kill her. The woman says that there is a way to prolong life and explains that to do this, you need to enter. A guy tells a woman that she has inner chi. Chokeru says that this can prevent your body from rotting. The woman reports that if she cannot control her power, she could harm others. Chokeru says that there are only two people here who can inject their inner chi into you, he and Ok-yeon, and the choice is yours. He says that you have to choose either Ok-yeon, who tried to kill, or him, the one who saved him from such a fate. The woman says she can't believe it happened. Chokeru says that it is not his, but someone else's. He says he wants to live. Chokeru says that if she doesn't want him to kill her, she must tell him where Shao is. The girl says she doesn't know where he is. He says there is only one. Chokeru says to become a double agent. The woman listens. A man stands at a closed door with a sign that says, Matt says, and a loud knock is heard. The man asks what is there and asks to be saved. The man screams that someone must save him. The man addresses Chokeru as Mr. Yu Yan Woo and asks what's going on. Chokeru responds by asking what's going on. The man says that the person there is crazy and that they need to leave right now. The man asks, what? Chokeru says he is not going to give up and intends to continue fighting. He says he will take everything by any means necessary. Chokeru says that if he can't find a way to not die, he won't be able to fulfill his promise. A man says they can discuss compensation later and asks him if he is okay. Another man says he seems unstable. A third man asks Mr. Yu Yanwoo if he is injured, and he replies that yes, he is fine. The woman says that he is usually not so unpredictable, and the man says that he does not understand how he dares to openly put on such a show. Chokeru says what to do and at the same time tells God. He says he didn't even drink his tea. Chokeru reports that unfortunately they will have to wait until next time. He tells her to answer him and asks what a bodyguard is. The man explains that it's a person who protects someone with a sword. Chokeru announces that from now on he will only draw his sword for defense. He says to save those who are in danger and protect them with his life. The man says that the person he's obliged to protect comes first, be it his own life or the life of his parents. Chokeru says that those who have something to protect will not die so easily, and adds, he says that we need to remember this. The monitor displays an oxygen level of 65%, and fluctuations in the readings are recorded on paper. The alarm sounds twice. A man reports that Chokeru's condition has suddenly destabilized, and another man asks if Mr. Chokeru Gam is okay. He says he's curious how much longer this will take. The man says that thanks to their collaboration, they have enough material for research and suggests continuing another time if he's tired. Chokeru says he can't afford to be weak. He says he made a promise he must keep. The girl says that this cafe has lots of delicious desserts and suggests they try something together. She explains that the croissants and cakes are especially popular there. The woman says he is late. Chokeru reports that the president has become suspicious and asks if he is being followed. He says that everything is fine now and offers to sit down. The woman says he doesn't think anything is wrong. The woman says the man doesn't even have any money and asks why he's ordering so many drinks. Chokeru replies that he's not particularly rich. The woman explains that she's the one asking the questions, and the man snorts. He says that if he can't protect her, he won't be able to protect himself. The man says he only discovered who was behind the mask on the brink of death, and explains that the man was part of the family he was protecting. The man explains that he was once a simple peasant, but fate brought him to this place. Chokeru explains that he is now here to protect those dear to him and is ready to face any challenges. The woman explains that they each chose their own path, and together they can overcome all difficulties. The man says he thought he died from the incident, but wonders, since when they had been planning the uprising. The woman says that he has many secrets and there must be a reason for him wearing a mask. She doubts that the interlocutor will get the answers he hopes for, and explains that she followed orders only because she wanted to follow the will. The woman asks if Chokeru and Ok-yan are the only ones who have arrived in the future. Chokeru says that as far as he knows, yes. The woman reports that she was curious herself, so she looked into the matter but found no mentions or traces of anyone. Chokeru says that if he can't find a way to stop this from happening, he won't be able to live any longer. The woman says that he is currently abroad and tells him not to say that he is just going to meet him. Chokeru says that Mr. Ok-yan has become more powerful than before. He says that he doesn't understand where the other person is looking. Chokeru says he can't afford to lose. He says there are a lot of people in the area, and if he's not careful, he could get lost. He explains that he needs to pay close attention to the road and not get distracted. The man asks, "What is it?" Chokeru says that, wow. He says that something interesting seems to be brewing. The woman says she doesn't understand what he's talking about, and the man says it's a shame. The man says he's adding conditions. The woman says that. Chokeru says he can't understand why the other person can't understand him. He explains that if he could understand the other person, he wouldn't do what he does. He says he can't afford to relax because if he does, he'll die. The woman says that there are only two ways in this world, either live or die, and that she chose to live. The woman says that if all three are here, then it is impossible and calls it nonsense. Chokeru says that those who have something to protect will not die so easily. He says to remember this. The man says this is the #1 rule of being a bodyguard. Chokeru says that you need to find your mistress. He says he has to try. The woman asks if he has a way to find her. He explains that it won't be easy since he barely remembers her face. The man says that if he doesn't write, he won't be able to get a job. Chokeru says he served her his entire life and remembers everything about her. The woman asks if he's really her bodyguard. He says it's clear. The girl under the umbrella asks if she was looking for him. The girl says she already warned Choi Shi-yun and calls her a cheeky girl. Choi Shi-yun says she's actually fine. They say that even though they are students, she is already like a celebrity. The woman says Choi Shi-yun has a crazy fan base, calling him an angel, the meaning of her life, a beauty and unreal. The man says that the girl even has creepy stalker fans, and that it is dangerous for her to walk alone. Chokeru says that a few days ago, one of them even hid in the entryway and asked how he could just let her go alone. The girl says it was just awful and asks if he saw it. The girl says she's jealous and asks when she'll get that kind of attention. The girl says she heard that Reika Khan's interview got a lot of views, and perhaps good news can be expected soon. The woman says she can't believe Chokeru is here. Chokeru says he came here to sort this out. The woman says that there is a sea of information about anyone and anything, as expected from this thing, and that it has an incredible number of functions. Chokeru says they have made progress and it's as simple as that, and also honestly says he thought it would take a year's supply of chi. He says to stand quietly and watch for a while first. The woman screams, the man reacts with surprise. The scene depicts an umbrella standing on a wet surface in the rain. There are no text or characters in the image. The woman asks who they are and explains that this is why they can stand in the rain, and the man asks why they are running away. The man explains that they're fans of Shiyun and are simply enlisting in the army tomorrow, and the boy explains that it's for the public good. The man asks for a hug and a souvenir photo for personal use, to which Chokuryu replies, "Don't even think about it." The woman says they always supported each other when they were going through difficult times. He smiles. The man says that they can do such a small thing in return, right? Chokuryu says something weird is going on. He says he looks definitely bad and asks if they should just keep watching. The image contains no text or characters, just a dandelion with one separated seed against a sky background. A girl holds a dandelion in her hands and carefully blows the seeds off it. Chokuryu says he can't afford to be weak because weakness is death. The man says that if there's no improvement, he'll have to call a doctor tomorrow. The man explains that for now, the patient needs to rest a bit and not be disturbed. He silently watches what's happening. Chokuryu tells her to back off, jumps, and pushes off the ground. A man in a green jacket and a man in a dark jacket with a backpack stand near the girl, and a man lies on the ground nearby. The man says he can finally hug them. The woman reports that it has started to rain. The woman says that if a cure isn't found, everyone will die. The man explains that the cure can only be obtained from Chokuryu. The girl explains that Chokuryu is alive and in the mountains. The girl says that if he doesn't leave, she'll call the police and warns him that she's not afraid. The man, lying on the ground, says he's not afraid of her. The girl explains that if he doesn't leave, she'll call the police. The girl says she's not going to give up and explains that if she can't win, she'll die. The woman says she's not going to give up either and says that if she can't win, she'll die. Chokuryu stands in the rain with his head down, while the sound of a gunshot can be heard. A girl reports that it started raining. A second girl says she didn't bring an umbrella. The scene depicts feet walking on wet asphalt in the rain, and the sound of footsteps can be heard. Chokuryu says he can't afford to relax because the enemy could attack at any moment. He says he can't forgive the girl because she hurt his friend and says he doesn't want to talk to her anymore. The girl explains she didn't mean to hurt him and asks him to understand. Chokuryu says he asks to wear this. Wet shoes step on the surface, causing a strong splash of water. A girl stabs a man in the stomach. The man makes a sound of pain. Chokuryu says that he cannot allow himself to die because he wants to see his sword burn. The girl says they haven't seen each other for a long time. The girl says that if he doesn't want her around, then he should say it directly, and then she will leave. Chokuryu says that a lot of time has indeed passed. The girl asks him if he is also a stalker. Chokuryu says he doesn't understand how this is possible. He says he wants to know the name of his interlocutor. The girl says he's not a fan of Shiyun, and Chokuryu asks if that's really her opinion. The woman says she can't believe he did this. Chokuryu says he asks for forgiveness. The girl says that if he doesn't want her to die, he must do what she says. The girl apologizes and says it's her fault for jumping to conclusions. The man says that behind. The man shouts that this guy is a stalker, and the girl asks to leave him to them. The guy tells Shiyun that they'll figure it out and suggests they leave, while the other guy wonders where he gets all that strength from. The girl says they're her managers, but asks what they're doing. The second girl explains that the stalker guys are lying there, not him. The man says, "Oh." The guy yells at them to get up, you freaks. The man asks Shiyun if she's hurt. The girl says they're being too loud and should just go. The man asks who the long-haired man is. The girl announces that she has arrived. Chokuryu stands on the street with his head down and his fists clenched. He says that he is not afraid of death and does not want to live if he cannot be with her. A bird with a long tail sits on a branch. The sound of a stone slab being struck can be heard against the background of trees. Chokuryu asks if it's her. The woman stands silently with her arms crossed. The woman says the place looks like a grave and says that a man who died many years ago is buried there. He explains that it is an ancient burial site and says that it was built for an important person in their history. The woman says that she has never seen anything like this before and that it is more worn out than she thought, and also believes that a lot of time has passed. The woman reports that this information has been confirmed by the country's top historian, represented by the president. Chokeru is reading a book. A man is standing nearby. He says that Ms. Min's family, according to records, died on the day of the uprising. Chokeru reports that even her belongings were found in the tomb. The girl says she can't believe he actually came. The girl asks Chokeru if he is Ryu Gum. He says that he cannot allow himself to die because he has a purpose that he must fulfill. Chokeru says he looks pleased. He says he's leaving, he's won. The man states that he cannot forgive the betrayal and orders the man to kneel. The man kneels before him. The girl says there are many things in this world that can't be explained by logic, and that sometimes you just have to accept them as they are. She explains that this is what makes life interesting and full of surprises. Chokeru explains that if he cannot win, he will die. The man lands hard on the ground, raising dust and rocks. Chokeru says that he is not going to give up and states that if he dies, he will die, but he will not retreat. He reports that he can't stand the pain anymore and is tired. The woman says it feels like the rivers are overflowing and the mountains are shaking. The woman reports that now that the lady's death has been confirmed, the child was eerily reminiscent of her. A girl is climbing the stairs. The girl says that everyone is here and reports that Dandelion has arrived. The guy reports that he went bankrupt after all. Chokeru says what he's carrying. The man exclaims, "Chief!" He says that even though he is the only worker here, he would never leave the company, while explaining that the girl sleeps here because she was left homeless. Deok tells him not to get hung up on small things and reveals that he is the CEO of Agency 50 and the only employee. Chokeru says that no matter what, the girl arrived on time. The girl says that she is not the only celebrity in this company, and her dazzling debut has not yet happened. The woman asks why the guy is suddenly acting like this and offers to make him 2 servings of ramen if he wants some too. The guy says there's no news. The girl reports hearing about a viral video of the interview online and that people are trying to contact them. On screen, the girl explains that she was walking across a bridge when a huge glacier suddenly appeared. The man says everyone's been going crazy about this baby lately and asks her to just wait a little longer. The man is serious, and the woman accuses him of trying to avoid the topic again, like last time. The woman says that perhaps betting on the school audition would have been faster, and the teacher's grades were good. The man reveals that it was Deok. The man says yes, yes, yes. The girl watches him silently. The man reports that he has arranged a meeting for a drama with Or Production. The girl says that this is a very large production company and asks what the interlocutor will do. The guy says that of course they will go, but the girl asks how else. The image contains no speech bubbles or characters, just a fly and a piece of paper. There is no text. The girl says she doesn't know who sets up meetings at such places and asks if they know she's underage. The man replies that it doesn't look like they're working there. The woman says it's a big production company, so there shouldn't be any problems, and that the boss probably sent her alone. The man calls her here. The man asks if his name is Min Duel Lei and says it is a beautiful name. The man says it's time to have a drink. The man asks why the girl won't take it. The girl explains that she can't drink because she's underage. Chokeru says not to feel obligated and just drink water, even though it's self-service. The man says he made the mistake because he was in a good mood. He tells Ms. Dola not to be nervous and considers this more of a meeting to get to know each other than an interview. The woman says it's a great opportunity and she'll do everything she can, then asks if the other person understands what she means. The man suggests moving into a close relationship from now on. The girl says she knows he's had a hard time and explains that starting today he'll work to earn some pocket money and everything will be much easier. The woman says it sounds good. The girl says, okay, of course, and that she wouldn't do it even if she were offered an entire building. The man reacts to her words. The girl says this is the end. The man says that Director Chan has a very special taste. The girl says that it was necessary to use drugs. The woman says she guessed right. The man says she didn't expect there to be anything added to the water. The woman says the bastards put something in the water. The man says that everyone knows that Deok is a fool who is easily fooled and that they are having fun, so who cares? After one sip, he asks if he said something wrong and laughs that they call Deok by his first name even though he is older. The man says that, as far as he knows, this is his first job since he was fired and that he's probably smirking now as he runs through the script. The boy says that kids like that don't just give up on their dreams and asks Yi if he heard what she said. Yi asks what she was talking about. Chokeru asks what else. The girl says that they should use her dream to their advantage. The guy reports that they are progressing without any obstacles and explains that everything is going smoothly. Chokeru informs that he will send the file soon. The image shows the presidential residence. Chokeru says that if he can't protect himself, he won't be able to protect others, so he must become stronger. He explains that to do this, he needs to train and not give up, no matter the difficulties. He says that he is not afraid of death and that he is always ready to meet it face to face. Chokeru says that today is a full moon and explains that at this time the demon's power reaches its peak. The image contains no speech bubbles, and the characters do not speak. Various printed materials are visible, including a greeting card with the inscription, "Happy Birthday," a photo of a group of people, and the caption, once again, "This year's awards." Chokeru radiates powerful energy. He says he's doing well. The woman says she just came in for a drink and has some interesting news, and the man says he's sure he's given enough chi for today. The woman asks if it's about OK Yun, and the man replies, "No." Chokeru says, "Just listen," and then says, "Then go away." The woman says it's about a girl who looks like her mistress but has lost her memory, and that they're so similar that she recognized her. She says she wondered if there were any other possibilities, and after looking through hundreds of books, she found something. The woman says that the girl's name is Min Dual Lei and explains that she belongs to the same Min family that Mrs. Dare is. Chokeru says he can't afford to be weak. He reports that she's a blood descendant of the lady. The woman says that's why he started following her and explains that it looks like she's in dire need of help right now. Chokeru says that's what it is and then says, He says he doesn't care. The woman asks what. The woman says she thought she would only do something with their shared blood, and Chokeru says she wasted her time. The woman explains that why. He says it's a child. Chokeru says there is no need to worry. He's just checking if the girl is okay. He says that this child is not his mistress. Chokeru says that he even determined her location, and then says that, okay. He says he can't afford to be weak. The woman says, Chokeru reacts to the phone's vibration and expresses surprise. The image contains no speech or text. It shows a shoe-clad foot forcefully stepping on a surface, causing cracks and shattering pieces. The woman says she stepped out for a minute and asks if anyone was looking for her. Chokeru says nothing. There's a folded paper crane hanging on the door. Chokeru says he wants to know what he's thinking. The woman says he is Ryu Gum. The woman says that Chokeru Gum cannot stand upright. The woman says it's a total disaster, Chokeru Gum. The man says there is no time, and Chokeru says that the lady needs to leave right now. The woman says to do her a favor and calls him Ryu Goma, asking him to be there when she doesn't turn around. The girl says she's not giving up and explains she'll fight to the end. The woman says she's always believed in the girl's strength and will support her no matter what. The woman says she's not going to give up. The girl says she won't back down either. On the table lie torn photographs and documents depicting a man with silver hair. There is no text or speech in the image, so it is impossible to describe actions or communication. Chokeru says her name is Min Dual Lei. He says he doesn't need to worry about her. Chokeru says he is sure she also has someone who protects her. Tubeksu announces that he's interviewing for a managerial position and greets the CEO. The CEO says he's hired. Tubeksu is surprised. Chokeru says it's enough to list self-confidence on your resume to work like a family member. The man says that's all he needs. Chokeru explains that he's a newbie, and the man confirms it. The man informs the other person that he will begin teaching him tomorrow and that he can go home today. He says thank you and confirms that he understands. The man says that Baeksu is honestly the only one here and adds that it's cute. Chokeru says that the surprise for Minduala is ready and informs that the meeting should end soon. The phone screen displays an incoming call from the boss. The man says, "What is this?" The man says something strange happened while he was going to the toilet. A man apologizes to his boss and tells him that the woman lied to him, explaining that as soon as he tried to touch her, she punched him in the head. The boss says, the man yells at her and swears at her what to do if she calls the police. Chokeru tells her to calm down. The man says she's still high and probably can't even stand on her feet properly. The girl says that she should be nearby. The girl says that if she hadn't dropped her phone, she would have been able to hide somewhere and call the police. The girl says it's good. She says it's good too and explains it's good. The man says that if they don't make it, everything is lost and says they need to run faster. The boy says he can't fall behind and will run as fast as he can. The image shows legs in white stockings walking on the floor. The girl says that she cannot let Chokeru die because she needs him. The sound of a sudden blow. The man reports that the door is locked. Chokeru says the door is locked and explains that the key is inside. The man reports that she's been caught. The guy says, "Forget it," and the other guy screams, "How dare you try to escape, you fucking creature." The girl reports that she still has lost her appetite. The man says that she has incredible strength of spirit to have held on and come so far. The guy says, "Seriously, what the hell happened?" and suggests they get out of here as soon as possible. The man replies he'll be back and show her, asking her to wait. The guy tells the boss to wait and asks if the ground just shook. The boss explains he doesn't know and asks if the girl has a concussion or something. The guy says the earth can't shake. A boy screams in pain as he falls to the ground along with his girlfriend and another man. The woman says it's an earthquake, and Chokeru says he told her the same thing. The man says the power went out and says they're having bad luck today. He explains that everything's quiet, so they should just move on, and suggests they just forget about it. The man informs them that if they aren't careful, they could fall into a trap. Chokeru explains that they must act quickly and decisively to avoid danger. The man explains that they only have one chance at success, and they must make the most of it. He holds a folded letter in his hand. Chokeru says that this letter is from the girl he loves and that she wrote that she will arrive soon. He says he can't afford to be weak because weakness will lead to death. He explains that he must become stronger for the sake of those who depend on him. Chokeru says he can't afford to make a mistake because it's too important. He says that if he can't find a way out, he will die in this place. Chokeru reports that the door is locked. He says he is not going to kill. Chokeru speaks cautiously. The man and the boy look ahead intently. The guy says he was scared and asks where the interlocutor suddenly appeared from. The guy says the earth is shaking. Chokeru raises his hand and throws the man into the air. Shots are heard on stage, and a man falls to the floor, stunned. Two more men can be seen in the distance, watching the scene. No information. The guy says he told her to let her go. Chokeru says you need to be careful. He says that if he can't win, he will die. He explains that if he dies, he won't be able to protect those he cares about. A man screams, making a piercing sound. The guy says that if he can't win, he will die. A man lies unconscious on the floor with steam coming out of his mouth. Chokeru says that everything is very bad. The man shouts that everything is bad. The car jumps sharply and lands on the road, raising clouds of dust and stones. The car's wheel brakes sharply, raising dust and stones. The guy says he didn't say anything. Chokeru says he can leave. The man reports that the girl won't wake up and that she seems to be on something. The man makes sounds of pain. Chokeru says that it seems that the interlocutor is not able to provide him with an answer. He says that he can simply kill the person he is talking to. Chokeru asks again if they poisoned her and reports that the girl is still unconscious. The girl exclaims that she was poisoned. He tells her to give him the antidote immediately. The guy explains that the girl is just a little high and will wake up if she's left alone for a while. A man screams in pain as he is crushed by a foot. Chokeru says that if he is lied to, he will break his neck. He says that if he understands, he must leave. The man groans and coughs. The guy says to take it and points out that it's there. The man asks what's going on here. A man steps on the ground. The man says they're a security team responding to an emergency call, and if you don't want to get involved, get lost. The guy says he'll leave, but still wants to know what's going on. Chokeru reports that Mindil lay. The man says that they are now taking this girl with them. The man asks who he is and says they don't need to know. The woman says that she needs to be handed over to them immediately, otherwise they will have to use force, and orders if force be used. Chokeru says that he won't stand aside either, and the man asks who he is. He says he wants to know what the other person said. The guy on the right shouts that if Chokeru doesn't tell him where the girl is, he'll kill her. The guy on the left warns that if Chokeru doesn't tell him where the girl is, he'll kill her. Chokeru remains silent. The girl stands in front of Chokeru. The guy says that if he doesn't give in, he'll be killed, and says he doesn't want to die. He explains that if he gives in, he'll be able to live. The guy asks them not to touch him and says he doesn't want to die. The girl says that she shouldn't do that and asks them to stop. The boy says they can't go any further because it's dangerous and suggests they turn back. The girl explains they have to go through or they'll be late for class. The man says he heard about an incident in the area and advises them to be careful. The girl says they can handle it and isn't afraid. Chokeru says that for sure. He holds the girl in his arms and says that she is safe, and the other men watch them closely. Chokeru says that if she doesn't wake up, she will die. The guy says he's answering the phone. The man says he's very upset and asks if they're there yet. He also asks for forgiveness. The man says that these are the bodyguards he sent for her and explains that this is the security company, SK Security. Chokeru reports that a third party has intervened in their story and asks who this person is. The man explains that he knows about it. He informs that he is the manager of this young lady. The man says they had no information about the girl having a manager and asks if that's true. The man also says, "Manager? What?" Chokeru says, "Huh?" The man says that in that case, it's enough to prove that he's her manager, and if they don't, they'll take her with them. The girl remains silent. The woman says that the interlocutor, in turn, can prove that it is safe to leave her with him. Chokeru says that he doesn't like the way they look at her and that it would be strange to leave an unconscious person in front of strangers. He says that since they decided to approach it from this side, the man says he will have to use force. Chokeru explains that if he raises his hand, it will mean stop. He says that if he can't complete the task, he will die, and asks not to interfere. The man explains that if he dies, no one will be able to complete the task, and says that he won't let him die. Chokeru holds the girl in his arms, and several men fall to the floor. The rest of the men in suits stand around them. The man says he can't understand why he found himself in this situation, and explains that he doesn't remember what happened. The man tells the manager that what he is saying is nonsense, and asks why they are falling apart there, calling them idiots. The man tells them to go ahead and put him in his place. The men hit and hold the girls. The man says he will kill, and at the same time Chokeru kicks him. A man screams in pain after being punched in the face. A man screams, grabbing a girl by the shoulder. Chokeru puts his hand on his chest. He says that if he can't protect the girl, he won't be able to protect himself, and asks to be allowed to try. The man says that if he fails, he will die. The man says he can't believe this is happening, and explains that this is the end. Chokeru holds the girl in his arms as three men fall to the ground next to them. There is no text or speech on the stage. A man walks past two people lying unconscious on the ground. Chokeru says, "It's a pity." He says that if they can't find her, they'll have to go to the police, and explains that the police can't help unless a report is filed. The man says he'll have to get serious about the matter. Chokeru says, "Sorry." He says that the girl woke up just in time, and the girl asks why he is here. The man asks if Chokeru knows these people, and Chokeru responds with confusion. The girl says she can't believe this is happening, and asks him not to let her go. The man says he has no intention of letting her go. The woman tells her to close her eyes, and the man asks what's going on. The man says that first you need to deal with the man, then get the girl to sleep and take her to her address, and calls it a pain in the ass. The man says that they start on the count of 3. The man speaks once. Chokeru picks up the girl in his arms and abruptly throws several men away. He says where? The girl says where what? Chokeru says he will deliver you. The girl says she doesn't understand what's happening. The man says that everything was exactly like that and confirms it with one word, yes. The man says he got too carried away and completely forgot about safety. The girl says, boss. Chokeru reports that these creatures, although they laugh and try to pretend that everything is fine, are actually in a state of shock. He says he thought it would be a good opportunity for her, but he was deceived, and it's just a disaster. The man says he wants to know where the boss is suddenly going, and Chokeru responds with a question. The guy says, we need to kill these bastards. The man says that they are going to fight alone against a huge company. Chokeru says that their dark deeds will have to be exposed and made public. The woman says they're too weak. The man explains that this world is designed in such a way that no matter how much they scream and try to fight, they will always be the losers. Chokeru says there is no need to go anywhere. The man says there is no need to start another pointless battle and asks if his interlocutors understand what he means. The girl says the fight will be held later and will be paid for 1,000 times over. The man says that you should start by saying thank you and that an adult should know where to start in such situations. The girl replies that yes, exactly. Chokeru says they owe him. The man says she's much better than him, despite being older, and asks how he can repay her. He explains that he doesn't need anything in return, he just asks for another glass of the elixir and says that sweet drinks are quite tasty. The girl says it would be cool if they had a manager like him, and the man says he's really good at fighting. Chokeru says it's a coincidence and reminds her that he was mistaken for someone else. The girl says that the other girl is probably very beautiful too. Chokeru explains that it was frivolous behavior and he underestimated her. The girl says to wait. A man asks what his interlocutor does for a living, and the interlocutor replies that he is unemployed. The man says that this is an excellent answer. Chokeru says that the interlocutor looks great in something. He says he's offering to work as a manager, and then immediately asks if he's serious. The girl congratulates dully and says that this is a really cool company. The girl says that's what interview he was talking about back then, and that she's so proud of him. Chokeru replies that he doesn't think anything will come of it. The girl asks what he. The girl on the right asks for forgiveness, and the girl on the left says she feels dizzy. A woman asks for help, asking what exactly, and explains that she wants advice on how to land a role or learn negotiation secrets. The second woman responds by asking what exactly she needs help with. The woman says she can't believe it. The girl says you can ask about everything. The woman says she's annoyed by why the girl stood in the middle of the road. The girl on the right says the country slut and the cheap hypocrite get along well together. The girl in the center says Choi Seo-woon is trying to be nice and helping her friend. She then asks what everyone's staring at. The boy tells the high school girls who they are calling names and offers to experience firsthand what it's like to be prosecuted for slander, and Chokeru says he's leaving and calls the boy a bear. The woman says she is annoying. The girl says that it is better to first get a personal manager who will resolve such situations and help with a number of other reasons. The girl explains that a manager is not just a physically strong person, but someone you can trust. The girl says that he should be the kind of person who can be relied upon in any situation. There is no text or speech in the image, so it is impossible to describe actions or communication. The image has no characters or speech, but shows a night scene with an illuminated tower against a dark sky. Chokeru says the girl is late. He says he's not a slave and has his own business to deal with. The man asks, what business? The woman says she doesn't need to report on her personal life and asks what's going on and why she was called. A woman asks what the role of a celebrity manager means and why a man is suddenly interested in this. The man responds by asking what kind of manager. Chokeru says that if we talk about this, then the woman explains that this is the person who handles all of the celebrities' affairs, monitors their well-being, all possible meeting schedules, and conducts negotiations on their behalf. In short, someone who helps and protects them. In the old parlance, it's something akin to the position of escort warrior. The man explains that. Chokeru reports that he has received a job and asks if he can inquire about the purpose of it. He says that he is Min Do-lay's manager. The man responds that he doesn't understand. The woman says she knew it would turn out this way and accuses the man of lacking shame and conscience, asking if he eventually changed his mind. The man replies that he did. The man reports that thanks to Min Do-lay he learned something. The man asks if Chokeru failed the mission. Chokeru apologizes to the commander and explains that this guy was no easy opponent. The man in the suit says the enemy is not easy. Chokeru says that while helping her he encountered several people and had to fight. The woman listens. The man reports that they were very different from modern inhabitants. He explains that even after he struck them with chi, they remained standing and did not lose their fighting spirit. The man delivers a powerful punch, causing a large splash of water. The man says that something is wrong with his interlocutor and reminds him that he himself knows very well that they are not the easiest guys either. Chokeru says it's a shame and asks if the other person understands the importance of this mission for them. He says they have no right to screw up. Chokeru says that for him and his interlocutor this is no problem, but the locals clearly shouldn't have behaved this way. No one speaks. A foot is shown touching the surface of the water. A leg hangs over the water, drops falling into it. Chokeru reports that there is no ki or martial arts in the world. The man asks if this is the guy with the long hair. The man says he needs to see him and understand what he is like. The woman says he felt the emanations of chi from these people. The woman says it's definitely true and asks if Chokeru is sure he's not mistaken. Chokeru explains that he doesn't understand why she's screaming like that. He says that he is interested in whether the interlocutor knows anything about this. The woman says it can't be. The woman says he was told that in this era, internal ki does not exist. Chokeru says it seems she wasn't considered an important figure and asks where she learned such angry remarks. The girl says he's talking nonsense and asks him to explain himself. The woman tells Yunhai that the world has changed a lot. The man reports that the planet's ecosystem has been constantly changing and this process has been going on for centuries. The man reports that the person changed along with her, and for this reason their bodies lost some of their former capabilities. Chokeru says that in this world, science is much more developed than martial arts. He says, the power of science is incredible. The woman says that she herself has not been in this world for long, but has already realized that the power of chi is simply not needed here. Chokeru says, even he. A man in a white shirt talks about the presentation, the others listen. The woman asks how she even survived. Chokeru says it wasn't just a simple chi. The girl says he wants to say something, and Chokeru says he's not ready to draw any final conclusions right now. He says that first he needs to find out what is behind these guys. The woman asks if Chokeru is leaving already. A woman reports taking a photo. A man and a woman walk past, the man looking ahead, the woman walking alongside. The man trips and falls to his knee. Chokeru walks along the sidewalk. The girl says she can't believe he came by car. He explains that his car is in the parking lot. The guy in a plaid shirt says the other guy doesn't know what kind of school this is, and the guy in a red jacket asks why there are so many foreign cars here. Then the guy in the red jacket says it's the best school in Korea. The boy says the school they're going to is a place where dreams come true. The girl explains that they can meet many new friends and gain knowledge that will help them in the future. The man explains that the main thing is not to be afraid of difficulties and always strive for your goals. The guy says the government is investing money wisely, and the man says that's true. The woman explains that this school is practically like a university. You can study a huge number of subjects there, including acting, which is why it's so popular among celebrities, most of whom graduated from here. The man says everything is done very well here. Chokeru says that's where he studies. The girl on the right says that only rich people's children go to this school. The girl in the center loudly stamps her foot. The boy says he's sorry. The text says that, unlike most students at this school, the woman asks why the girl was standing right in front of the door. The girl explains that she ended up there by accident. A girl asks Dula how she is. The text informs her of the target address and explains that it was a poor girl like her who managed to get into this cool school. The guy tells Choi Sung-woon he's tired of him trying to maintain the image of a good guy with a poor girl. The text message states that the girl has become an eyesore to everyone else. The woman tells Seo-jun to stop. Seo-jun tells her that if she were acting on her feelings, she would have punched her in the face long ago. Chokeru says, and that. A guy asks a girl what she will do if she doesn't stop. The guy says they saw her eyes and that her ass is Jim Jim. The girl says Jinil has appeared, and she immediately becomes frightened and cowers. The other guy says that's not enough and asks what they'll do with her. The text block says he's too weak to try anything. The guy announces that they will have a transfer student and asks if they have heard the news about it. The man says that the bell should be heard and orders everyone to quickly take their seats. The man reports that a newcomer has been transferred to them. Chokeru says it should be a girl and adds that they don't need a boy. A guy says he wants a cute idol. A girl asks if it's definitely a girl. The guy explains that it doesn't matter because there's a new face among them. Chokeru reports that he has arrived. The girl asks to introduce herself. Several students in the class express surprise and whisper among themselves, turning their attention to the man standing near their desks. Chokeru says his name is Chokryu-gyeon. The man asks to wait. A man asks if he wants to go to school. The man says he's fulfilled many requests, but this one is particularly unusual, and asks Chokeru why. Chokeru explains the reason is simple. He says he wants to know more about this world. Chokeru says that's impossible, even if he's president. The man says he understands. The man says that if he can't get what he wants, he will be forced to resort to extreme measures. The man says the intelligence director will help, right, and clarifies that doesn't mean it's impossible. The man also utters a short, huh, and says, that is to say, Chokeru says that if they are the right age, then in principle he doesn't see any problems. The guy says he has long hair and asks if he's getting ready to become the next star. The woman says that Chokeru has model-like looks and asks why he is shy and doesn't say anything. He says to get away from here. The guy says he is Jin-il and asks if Chokeru is strong and keeps himself in shape. The guy explains that his body doesn't develop exactly like that, but as. Chokeru says he will tell how he kills people. A man asks if he kills people. A guy with glasses is reading a book and sweating. A guy with short blonde hair is laughing and saying he's funny, and the guy with dark hair in the middle is asking what role he's playing now and says he can't stop laughing. Chokeru says that if he can't stop the man, no one can. The man asks Chokeru not to interfere. The guy is surprised that he's the same age as him and says that everything he touched simply disintegrated in an instant. Chokeru says he can't afford to relax. The guy says that if he can't prove his innocence, he will be killed, and asks not to let this happen. He says that if he can't prove his innocence, he will die. Chokeru says that he can't say it was bad, and that he can't say it was good. The girl says to go out. Chokeru says, explain yourself. A girl asks the manager, Jushi, if he is a high school student. The girl asks why Chokeru didn't tell her about this, how he even got into the school, and who he is. Chokeru says she didn't ask and confirms her words. The man asks not to reveal his identity and explains that if someone asks about it, he must answer in a certain style. The girl asks about the target direction. Chokeru says that he got here by target direction. He says he still remains a security guard manager. Chokeru says not to worry and reports that everything is happening as agreed. He says he will protect the girl. The woman says that the way to get to the enemies is to simply stay near her. Then she asks to wait. The girl says there's no need to do management stuff at school, and if rumors spread about it, they'll both be in trouble. Chokeru suggests they just pretend they don't know each other. The girl says she's not a star yet and asks why she needs to be protected. The girl says she hasn't finished speaking yet and asks where he went. The man suddenly pushes back, money flying around him. The guy says it's the local tax and asks if he shouldn't have brought all the money at once if it was already collected. The man explains that he was talking about that. The man says that he knows that all of this will end up in Jinil's pockets, and at the same time asks what the bastard just said. The man speaks to the side. A man punches another man hard in the stomach, causing him sharp pain. The man says it was delicious. The guy says that everyone in the class understands this and asks if the interlocutor is stupid. The guy with glasses screams, "Oh," and starts explaining something. Chokeru tells him to calm down and explain everything. He says that if she doesn't want him to interfere, then it's better for her not to interfere in his affairs. The girl explains that she doesn't intend to interfere, but wants to understand why he acts this way. A guy says that the other guy's stubbornness and rationality are starting to irritate him. A man in glasses picks up money from the floor. Chokeru says it smells like bullshit. The man says Jinno collects money from the kids under the guise of tuition, and the whole school is under his thumb because he's strong, has a wealthy family, and isn't even afraid to intimidate the teachers. He says that, in other words, he is the local king, and at the same time asks if this is the king. The guy says that they only exist thanks to support, and asks for support for their transfer to Boosty so that they can continue translating quickly. The man says that this weakling is the local king. Chokeru says king, and then explains that in other words, he is the local king. The guy reports that yesterday. The man asks if this guy is the local king. The guy says it's a translated Vyaknul. The guy asks who Clayupak is. The man asks who it is. Chokeru says he didn't mean to offend anyone and apologizes. He says that the man even speaks strangely and asks if he's playing some kind of role, warning him not to say that this is all being done on purpose, and asks if he wants to try to rise higher in the local hierarchy. The man replies with one word, "What?" The man says he thinks even he will be strong enough to deal with Chokeru. The man says, "Pff," and asks seriously. Chokeru says he has nothing to lose. The man says, "Let's sort it out," and orders to hit first. Chokeru says he wants to die. The man says that if he can't find the answer, he will die. Chokeru says he's a damn show-off. The guy asks what's going on and says who dared to pick on a transfer student on the very first day. The boy asks the teacher, and the man says it's Jin-il. The boy tells Jin-il that fighting within the school was fun, and Jin-il says he understands and calls him a transfer student. Chokeru says it's time to have some fun. The guy in the purple jacket says they'll find out soon. The man with long dark hair, the man with black glasses, and the man in the brown jacket are listening. The man with black glasses and the man with long dark hair are standing, and the guy in the blue jacket is crouched. The man says he dared to contact someone. Chokeru says questioningly. The guy says, "Ahem." Chokeru asks if he can sit here. A boy with long hair speaks questioningly. The other students walk towards the tables with trays. Chokeru says sorry. A girl asks if she can sit next to her. A guy with glasses and a bowl cut says yes. Chokeru says it was obvious it would end like this and explains that he was stigmatized. The man asks why the attitude toward him suddenly changed. The guy tells you that Jin-il is the king of this school, and if you dare to cross his path, life at school will turn into hell. Chokeru says he'll make you apply for a school transfer yourself. A man is kneeling in his underwear. Another man is ripping his tie apart. A man is walking down the street with a backpack. A man is standing by the toilet tearing. In the classroom, several students are sitting at desks. One, he says that for this reason everyone avoids him, and no one wants to be tainted by communicating with him. The boy asks why Chokeru let him go, and says he's sure Chokeru would have dealt with him without any problem, and also says he was curious to know something. Chokeru replies that he should ask. The man says that he remembers the incident of their first chance meeting, and then it seemed to him that he was very unusual and spoke a little strangely. He asks if he is a superhuman. The man tells Chokeru that he is coming with him because he has a conversation, and at the same time, he says the phrase Chokeru. He says okay, and asks what the man thinks about school. Chokeru explains that since ancient times, teachers and mentors have always been people of high moral principles, respected by everyone around them, and he believes that the teachers at the school are dishonoring their noble calling. The man asks what he thinks. He says that he was asked an awkward question and that the girl showed up at the right time. He asks why she wanted to meet. The woman speaks to Yun Hai and explains that she was curious to know his opinion. The woman reports that she found a person with chi in this place, and then says that she does not understand how it was possible to immediately get down to business without talking. Chokeru says that he hasn't figured it out yet. The man asks who it is, and in response the girl exclaims, "What is it?" The man says he doesn't know who exactly possessed the key, but he has several options in mind. Chokeru explains that he created a situation in which the man had to manifest chi, and in an attempt to confirm or disprove his hypothesis. He says it was a great move, but he had to refrain from further action because the current situation imposed restrictions. Chokeru says that one way or another the fact is confirmed. There is no text or speech in the image, only glasses lying on the surface. A man explains that the key used by martial artists is still present in this modern world. The guy explains that he was injured. The guy says he just said, "ah," again. The man tells him to undress. The man begins to take off his shirt, revealing a shoulder with a bruise. The man says that it is his interlocutor's turn now and invites him to hit him. The guy says, "okay." The guy asks Chokeru why he has such a serious face and says that they are just playing. A man delivers a powerful punch to a boy's stomach, who screams in pain. The guy says the game is called, "If you make a sound, you take your clothes off." The man says he saw Moon Junho openly sit next to Ryujium in the cafeteria. The man says Moon Junho was hanging out with an outcast and completely lost his temper. The other man expresses displeasure. The woman says he knew what would happen to him next and says, "It looks like he'll even take off his underwear today." The man says, "That's enough." The guy asks the president, and Chokeru tells him to stop. Chokeru explains that he wants the money handed over to him, too. The girl says she thought the president was not like them and that it was disappointing. The woman says she now sees that they, too, have given up. The man clenches his fist. The man asks for his forgiveness. The guy says that he has endured all this until today because he has to finish his studies and return the money he paid for it, and the man asks why. A man says he doesn't talk to a dumbass and kicks another man. A man reports the sound of a gunshot. Chokeru stops the guy's punch by raising his hand, and a man stands nearby, watching what is happening. He says, "It's clear." The guy says he was told he's the king of the school, but the things he does just show he's a sick bastard. Another guy asks what he stole. The guy says that now the whole crowd will pass Chokeru around and finish what they started, and another guy says that Chokeru arrived on time. The woman says that it is Mr. Ryugyom. The man asks to avoid problematic situations and not to put them in an awkward position, and also hopes that they will carefully consider their actions before deciding to act. A guy in a gray jacket gets punched in the face by a girl on the right, and a man in a purple jacket punches him in the stomach on the left. The guy says he's interested. Chokeru says that nothing good will come out of friendship with him and asks why he sat down and started talking anyway. He says that this is always the case. The strong protect the weak. The man says that Chokeru is certainly strong, but when it comes to adapting within the school, he seems weak, and the man is not sure about this, but that is the impression he got. The guy says he thinks he just couldn't pass by. The man says there is something wrong with his hand and screams that his hand. A man screams from a blow to the face, trying to defend himself with his hands. Chokeru delivers a powerful punch that sends the man falling to the ground. The guy says he's not going to give up. The guy says that Chokeru knocked both of them out in a second, and the girl asks who he even is. Chokeru says that this is true. He says that if he can't handle this, he won't be able to handle the rest. Chokeru says, "It's time to show yourself." The man says, "Haha." The man says that it means the interlocutor was interested from the very beginning and warns to prepare for death. A man punches while simultaneously extending 2 fingers of his other hand. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he'll die. Chokeru explains that if he dies, he won't be able to see his father become stronger. The guy stabs him in the face with his fingers, who looks at him with tension. Chokeru delivers a powerful blow that sends the man flying backwards. He says he is pathetic. The man says he has a... The guy says it's a wall. Chokeru says he is the best person for the role. He says it's clear. Chokeru says it's hard to hide your strength, and now he's sure of it. The man reports that President Park Min-kook. Chokeru says he's not going to fight them because he doesn't want to ruin his relationships with his classmates. The man says that if Chokeru doesn't want to fight, he should just leave. Chokeru explains that he won't leave because he wants to sort things out. The man says that then he'll have to resort to force. The man says he is addressing a respected transfer student. The man says that if they say again that he is hiding something, it will be a lie. The guy says he doesn't know. They're whispering and standing around. The girl asks what they're talking about. The man says he heard the transferee tell the president he's hiding something. The man asks what exactly. The girl says that in the end it all comes down to one thing. The transferred one created chaos. Chokeru says that Junil's family is no joke and asks how he plans to deal with it all. The girl says that, oh. A man asks if Chokeru is talking to Park Min-kook. He says he can't afford to be weak. The woman reports a sound similar to knocking or banging. Chokeru is walking up the stairs. A man and a girl are talking in the hallway. The girl says it's cool. The girl says it's the fact that he's the same age as them and that they're now in the same class. The man says he initially found it suspicious. The girl confirms this and laughs. The girl says that thanks to him, things will be calm at school for a while. The man reports that Jinil's reputation has been trampled into the dirt. The girl says she doesn't understand how he dared to do this to her, and the guy tells her to call the class teacher. Chokeru says it's time for him to start paying for what he did. The girl says that he doesn't think Ryugyom is any different, and he asks in what sense. The girl says that he is unusual in almost everything, and says that perhaps it is worth getting closer to him. The girl asks if she should make the first move and what he thinks about it. The man says Shon. Shon answers yes. The girl says this is your manager. The man whispers something in her ear. The girl on the right says it's really cool and promises not to tell anyone. The girl on the left asks for forgiveness for not telling her sooner. The woman says that since he's a high school student, he has little experience, and she thinks she told her everything at the right time. Chokeru agrees that she's right about that and explains that he doesn't have much experience either, but he finds it interesting that they can build something new together. The girl says that she thinks so, and asks if her interlocutor thinks so too. Chokeru says he may appear more trustworthy than his manager. He says that there is nothing in this world that cannot be bought with money. The guy says he's not hiding anything. Chokeru says there is no point in hiding it and asks when the interlocutor first demonstrated his qigong. He says it's qigong. The man asks what kind of gong and what it is. Chokeru says what it means. The guy says of course, there was no other way to do it. The man asks if the guy wants to say that he was just going to punch him. The man turns to the guy, calling him a transfer. The guy says he doesn't understand what nonsense his interlocutor was talking about before. Chokeru says that, He explains that if you hit your palm, you can feel the force of the blow. Chokeru says she feels both familiar and alien to him at the same time. The man screams that he can't believe anyone dares to look at him and slams his fist on the table. The man says Chokeru did something stupid on his first day and asks if he knows who he's dealing with. The man says he called his guardians and warns that he will answer for everything that happened. Chokeru says it's a disgrace, and the man shouts back that he said. He knocks on the door and says that you can come in. Chokeru says he rushed to come here as soon as he received the call. The man asks if they wanted to see Ryugyom's guardians. A man says he is the head of the National Intelligence Service and asks what is wrong with that. The man reports that the school is fully funded by the state and is extremely upset by the behavior of the person he is talking to. The man says that The man tells Ryugyom that he can go. Chokeru asks to forgive him and says that if they don't want to listen to all this nonsense. The girl asks if the problem has been solved. Chokeru asks if the girl brought what he asked for. The girl says she's an expert in this area and managed to steal it without anyone noticing. The man says, hold it. Chokeru reports that all the information about the guy who demonstrated his qigong has been collected. He says the girl did a great job. The guy asks if there is anything special about Park Min-guk's case. The woman says the young man is quiet and attentive, as normal as can be. Chokeru reads the paper. The man says the only unusual thing about him is perhaps his passion for studying at school. The girl says that maybe he inherited something from his parents and asks what the family is like. The woman says she doesn't think it's possible. The man asks why. The man says he doesn't have any. The image shows a table with family information, listing relatives, their names, and ages. The relative section lists Park Min-guk, a student, and Park Daehan, an older brother. The man says he only has an older brother. Chokeru says he can't understand why people hate him so much, because he's done nothing wrong. He explains that he's always tried to be a good person and help others. The man with glasses says that if he can't handle it, no one can. The man with a beard says he'll take it upon himself and asks not to worry. Chokeru says that if he can't find a way, he'll have to give up on the case. The man says that if he can't find a way, he'll have to give up on the case. He says he was looking for her then and now. The man says that maybe there is a secret, some mystery that they all know. A man climbs a metal ladder to the roof of a building. The man reports that he has returned. The image shows a sound that expresses a sharp or sudden noise. The guy asks if Chokeru had dinner, and Chokeru replies that it was great. The boy asks if anything happened at school. The man says he can't afford to lose. The guy says hey and asks if something happened after all. The man says that if he fails to complete the task, he will die. The boy reports that at school he met a boy who used the same power as him. The man says he's a transfer student, but he dealt with all the idiots in no time, and he's sure it was that force. Chokeru reports that someone managed to figure out that he also had this power, but he pretended not to understand what he was talking about. The man says that Hyun may not believe it, but it really was true. The guy asks if he's serious and what he looks like. Then the man says, "Oh?" Chokeru says he's tall with long hair, almost like a girl's. He says that the man reacts sharply. The guy says, "Heh." The phone is vibrating on the table. Chokeru says he wants to know what's going on. He reports that he found that guy. Chokeru says it's funny, but he's a high school student, and the text box asks if he's a high school student. The man says he's very upset about how things went back then. He asked for forgiveness and explains that he was out of town on a business trip at the time. Chokeru asks what he can do to earn forgiveness. The man tells Kim that he really has to explain such things to him. Chokeru punches the wood, causing sparks and cracks. The man says he doesn't intend to kill. Chokeru says he'll bring them this guy's head. The image contains no text or speech, only a view of the building. It is impossible to describe the actions or speech. The guy says, "Wow." The man says the transferred student is returning the money to the students. The man says that Janil took these things from them. Chokeru stands nearby, listening. The boy says he doesn't understand why the class president supports this jerk. The man says Janil has the courage to go to school after such humiliation. The girl reports that this is apparently true. The girl says that Chokeru Guillaume is now the new king of the school. She also explains how amazing he is. The guy says that even though you can't tell by his appearance, he is still a child, just like him and Chokeru. He explains that it just happened that way. The guy says he managed to get the school back to normal in just one day. The guy asks him to share the secret of how he can stay so calm, and he replies that it's nonsense and asks him to tell them how they sort the trash. Chokeru says, "Don't worry, he'll tell you everything he knows about the school," and then says, "Oh, no." He says that he will ask him. Chokeru says that banks go to banks and paper goes to paper. The guy asks if he's never done this before, and he explains that sorting is necessary to protect the environment and is not some kind of game. A man looks at sheets fluttering in the wind on clotheslines between buildings. The man says if there are any more questions. The man says he'll figure out the rest himself. Chokeru says that now they are left here alone. The man says it won't rain today, so it's safe to throw out the trash. He says it will rain tomorrow, so it's better not to throw out the trash today. A man places his hand on another man's shoulder. The man says he won't stand still and wait for an attack. The guy asks what they're doing. The man and the girl react with surprise. The guy says it looks suspicious and asks if they're having some secret conversations again. The man is surprised and asks where the wind is coming from. The woman says she taught him how to properly sort waste. The man confirms this. The woman asks if they tried to fight, to which the man replies no and doesn't understand why. The girl says that only students from the target group have gathered here and asks if any of them have friends. Chokeru says it wouldn't hurt for them to be friends. The man asks if everything is in place. The woman says there are only two of them, but they are all there, and the man asks why they were called. Chokeru says that the girl has been waiting for this for a long time, and the girl says that it really is them. A man says he has a job, but he says there's something wrong with his face. The woman informs her that her younger brother is filming a short online series, and the role will be minor. She explains that he'll be playing a student, so there's no need for much preparation, and the filming will take place at night. Chokeru is surprised that the filming will be at night. He says the only problem is that it's a bit far and asks if the manager can drive. The manager repeats the question about driving skills. The guy asks if this is the car they're supposed to take. Chokeru says yes, he'll take her in the car, and explains that the car, while an ungrateful bastard, is in good working order and will get them there. The guy says they're supposed to get anywhere in this little thing. The girl tells the boss she doesn't think that's a good idea since he's a schoolboy just like her. The man reacts with a shout. The guy says he attends the same high school as him. The man asks why he didn't tell him about it, to which the guy replies that he wasn't asked. The man says they haven't even signed the contract yet and asks what to do since he doesn't have time to take the other guy there, noting that he's putting up a serious fight. The man calls the other guy the boss. The girl says that they have to leave soon and asks what to do, then she says, "Haha." The man says that this is the card he received. Chokeru tells her not to spend too much. The girl eats without answering. The girl says, "Oh," and then says he didn't ask them to spend money wisely. Chokeru says that a man who ate 5 loaves of bread tells him to wipe the sour cream off his mouth first, then he coughs. The woman says she felt like the guy was close to the president. He asks if it's Park Min-kook. The woman says yes to some extent. The guy says that they are both studying in a targeted direction, so from the very first year they often crossed paths in different places. The woman says the targeted referral is a kind of scholarship to support children from low-income families, and so they felt a kinship, a connection between the two disadvantaged children. The man says there used to be more of them, but only the two of them remained. The others couldn't bear the humiliation and left. The man says Park Min-kook is very resilient, and perhaps this is because he was raised by his older brother, who works in the security service. Chokeru says he heard about his brother. The girl says she wonders why he is so fixated on another person when he should be worried about her. The woman tells Chokeru not to pretend to be asleep and calls him. He says that the devil be with him and orders him to sleep. The man announces that filming is about to begin and asks everyone to come here. Chokeru says he wants to go together. The girl says she doesn't like awkward situations and asks if the guy realizes how much he stands out from the crowd. He replies that he might be a little in the way. The girl asks if he means he'll be in the way. Chokeru says that the bus belongs to the film crew and that they can rest in it, and then says that he'll be back soon. He says that you just need to wait for him quietly. Chokeru says that if his brother works in the security service, he could be connected to those guys. The man tells her that if he fails to complete the task, he will die. The man explains that this is not a threat, but a fact. Chokeru reports the sound of impact. The man reports that he heard that the other person is a high school student. The man asks if he remembers them. The man says everything turned out well. The man says that if Chokeru answers his questions, he will not get up. He says the first question is the goal. He asks if it is aimed at him or at Min-dole. The man is silent, and another man tells and the second one. Chokeru asks if his interlocutors know Park Dae-han. The man says that the girl doesn't need to get up. The man says to sit down. The man says, ho ho. Chokeru says there is no need to make a mess here. The man says that if he can't get what he wants, he will destroy everything. A man squeezes another man's hand sharply. Chokeru says to try to block it. A man says that after such an attack there will be no traces to be seen here. Another man says that he decided to use an attack of such force here, and a third man asks what they are going to cover up here. The man says he has pride. Chokeru punches a man in the face. A man falls from a chair. Chokeru says that it turns out that there is something useful on this bus, and reports that it is not God knows what, but he says it's definitely better than beating them with his fists. The guy says that this time we need to deal with him, and at the same time calls on the guys. Chokeru says, hitting the man. A man warns to be careful as he kicks another man. Chokeru says he doesn't want Diola to have problems because of him. He throws a saw into the air. Chokeru lands a punch that sends both men flying backwards, hitting their heads on the floor. The image shows a close-up of a lever with a red handle attached to a metal surface. There are no text blocks or speech bubbles. There are no speech bubbles or text in the image, and the characters are silent. The men are sitting on a bus, some with their heads bowed or down. A girl with long dark hair is standing or sitting closer to the foreground. The guy reports that the bus has arrived. Chokeru is silent. He raises his hand and stops the movement. Chokeru reports that 1 minute and 57 seconds have passed, explains that if you subtract the useless things the interlocutor was doing, 57 seconds remain, and says that these are weak guys. The man reports that he constantly has to clean up after them himself. Chokeru asks if his interlocutor is Park Dae-han, and he in turn asks who he is. The guy says he's asking about himself. Chokeru says he is your ancestor. He says that Chokeru says that if he can't win, he won't be able to protect. The guy says it's an ancestor. The man laughs. The man apologizes and says the answer was quite unexpected. Chokeru laughs. The man says the boys are similar to each other, but at the same time, they're different. The man asks what he means by that. Chokeru says he knows the younger brother of his interlocutor. He says Park Min-kook. A man hits a girl on the head with a bat, causing her to scream. The guy says he wants to know who the interlocutor is. Chokeru says he wants to know what sparked such curiosity. The guy says that he is also interested in knowing something about him. A powerful impact occurs, causing cracks and the ejection of rocks from a surface. Chokeru says they might continue elsewhere. He reports that there are no security cameras in the area and explains that the location is ideal for a meeting. Chokeru says he is actually consumed by curiosity. The man says he wants to know where he came from and who he is to have such power. Chokeru says he already said he would answer questions if his interlocutor wins. The man says that if he can't find a way to stop this, he will continue to kill. He explains that he can't afford to lose. Chokeru says that he says that you shouldn't talk like he's the boss here. The man suddenly rushes forward with a fist. Chokeru delivers a powerful punch to the ground towards the man. He says he blocked. A man steps on the ground with his foot. Chokeru says he doesn't intend to kill, but simply wants his opponent to understand that he's not someone to be messed with. The man says that's too cruel, and that he has no intention of surrendering. He kicks the man. A woman punches a man who tries to dodge her. A man throws a punch. Chokeru lands a series of quick punches on the man, who tries to defend himself by raising his hands. He says he is not going to give up. Chokeru says he can't afford to make a mistake because it will cost him his life. The image does not contain speech bubbles, but shows hands clenched into fists, wrapped in sharp metal rings. Chokeru punches downwards at the man, who is covering himself with his arms crossed. He throws a punch which the girl deflects by holding his hand. The image contains no text or speech. A man steps on torn paper, scattering small pieces and dust. Chokeru runs forward, gaining speed. The sounds of rapid movement can be heard in the background. The time is indicated at the bottom, 2 seconds. He says that if he can't win, he will die. The man declares that he will not allow Chokeru to leave alive. The man explains that if Chokeru does not surrender, he will be destroyed. He stabs a man in the neck against the backdrop of a tiger's huge, open mouth. Chokeru strikes, breaking a wooden object. He delivers a series of quick blows to the man's chest. Chokeru says he's finished. He clenches his fist, surrounded by an energy vortex. The man says the kicks are like those of a crouching tiger. Chokeru says he uses them, but asks if the other person knows what they actually mean. A feeling of silence is conveyed, just for a second. But Chokeru says that this qigong should not be so loud. A caption appears above the characters stating that the blow destroys the darkness. He reports that he felt darkness descend upon the entire area. Chokeru punches the man, who prepares to kick him in response. He announces that the translation is for the channel and invites everyone to read the new chapters before anyone else at the link. The man screams, releasing dust and particles from his mouth. Chokeru delivers a powerful blow that sends the man flying backwards, raising dust and debris around him. He says that if he can't win, he will die. Then he says that he is not afraid of death. Chokeru says that was the first blow. The girl says that they will not go by bus, and asks what. The man says they offered to help and even solve the food problem, and also says they'll take them home. Chokeru asks what happened. An air conditioner and an antenna are installed on the roof of the building. The man says he can't understand why Chokeru isn't answering his calls and messages. A man gets punched in the face. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he'll leave the organization. The man clenches his fists and prepares for battle. He says that the girl is at home, so there is no need to panic, and says that they are lucky that her brother has not returned yet. The man asks Chokeru what he wants to know about him and asks him to tell him a promise is a promise. He says that while the other was unconscious, he already confirmed several of his guesses. Chokeru says that the body is empty and it is impossible to maintain qigong in it. He says he was interested in understanding how the other manages to use qi. The guy makes a sound that expresses tension or surprise. The guy reports that he then found these ampules in another person's house. Chokeru says that although the shape of these objects is different from what he is used to, the properties are known to him. He reports that they are able to artificially fill a person with qi. The man says that explains everything. Chokeru, clenching his fists, prepares for action. He says he shared them with his brother. Chokeru says he is sure that the interlocutor does not know the most important feature. The man says the girl is talking nonsense and demands that she explain it so that he understands what she is talking about. A man says he could die if something goes wrong with his medication. Chokeru says he doesn't believe it. The man says that if he doesn't want to be killed, he should give the money back immediately. The man says he can't take it anymore and is going to scream. Chokeru tells Park Dae-han. He says that if the girl wants to protect her brother, she needs to stay away from these people. Chokeru opens his eyes sharply. Chokeru opens his eyes wide. The man asks what it was and whether the other felt it. The man says that if he can't win, he will die. The image contains no text or speech, only a close-up of a foot in a shoe. Journalists say they see Yu Yanwoo and call him out. Chokeru says he is not going to give up and intends to keep moving forward despite all the difficulties. The woman greets him and says that it's been a while since we've seen each other. He responds by addressing her by the name Yunhai. The woman says she sees that her interlocutor is doing well and looks great. The man says he hopes he's adjusted a bit by now and asks if that's really true. Chokeru says he can't afford to make a mistake. The image does not contain any text or speech, only the cap is shown. A man with a camera reports that there was an incident at the airport today involving a famous actor. The man with the camera explains that the actor unexpectedly threw his cap into the crowd, causing a commotion. The man with the phone explains that many are trying to capture the moment on camera. The husband. A woman says it will be fun. A man with a camera explains it will be fun. A woman says it will be fun. Chokeru announces that he has no plans to return to Korea and explains that he wants to stay in Japan. He says he no longer wants to be part of show business and intends to start a new life. He says he meant it. A woman reacts with surprise and pain to being grabbed by the throat. Chokeru asks why the girl is still alive. The man asks how it is that the girl is still alive. The woman says, Yun Yun Hai. The man tells you to undress. The man says he can't afford to lose. The woman says she wants to understand what's going on. The woman reports that she has removed all traces of Chokeru-gyom's energy and explains that her body has reached its limit and she is barely holding on. Chokeru says, He says she has suffered enough. The woman says Chokeru is stronger than she thought, and it must have been excruciating pain for him. The man tells the girl not to be angry and puts his hand on her shoulder. Chokeru says he had no intention of leaving his interlocutor. The woman says she is wondering if the man she is talking to is okay and that he has a strange expression on his face. Chokeru says it's nothing serious and asks if it's true. He says that if he can't win, he will die. The woman says she just needs to rest. The man asks where Yu Yanwu went, and the woman replies that she doesn't know and hasn't seen him anywhere. The man makes a sound of bewilderment. The guy says he has a headache from all this. A man places a cigarette on his chest, where a bird-shaped burn is visible. Chokeru explains that this explains his current condition, which has remained a mystery to him until now. He says that their office deliberately concealed information about such a harsh side effect. The man says, hoo-hoo. The man reports that he is at home. A man says hello. The man says that he can't give up everything now, and confirms this with the word, uh-huh. The man says, brother. Chokeru says he's not a pervert. The man asks why Chokeru is peeping and calls him a pervert. The man says he is temporarily banning the use of the medicine. The guy asks what. The man reports that they launched an investigation and discovered that the ampules were only intended to be given to members of the organization. The guy says he has an important exam coming up, and Chokeru says it's so sudden. The man says that if he can't win, he won't be able to protect those he cares about. A man says he has a nosebleed and it's a terrible day. Chokeru asks why the man's nose suddenly started bleeding. The man replies that he doesn't care. The guy asks if he is sick and demands that he not hide it from him, and he says, brother. Chokeru says he notices the other guy is on edge today. He says that students often get nosebleeds, and another character expresses doubt. On the plate there is a piece of meat with sauce. Next to it there are slices of tomato, a few cloves of garlic, and mushrooms. The man says bon appetit. The man says boss. The man says he's the head of security. The man says it's good, and suggests watching. The man reports that the results of the new drug's action. The man says yes boss. Chokeru reports that they have managed to improve the result thanks to a new formula. The man announces that the test will begin. The image shows a glass of a drink, with circular waves visible on the surface of the liquid. The sound effects convey the sound of the liquid moving or shaking in the glass. Chokeru reports that all of these people are experts who have successfully undergone injections of the previous generation drug. He says, asking if they feel the difference. Cha Kyung-il reports that the cost of their company's services will increase significantly. The man says he hopes everyone will quickly get used to the new opportunities. Chokeru says the man has adapted to the new version of the drug surprisingly quickly and must have a very good body. The man in the wheelchair replies that Chokeru is being too kind to him. Chokeru says it's time to get down to business and asks how sales are going. He says that they are constantly growing. The man reports that the number of dealers and intermediaries is growing, and Chokeru explains that this is due to the fact that the drug provides visible improvements after just one dose. The man says they are destined for success, boss, and explains that there is also a place in medicine, hiding behind natural vitamins. The cat reports that everything is going smoothly, except for one thing. Park Dae-han speaks, and the man replies that he understands. The guy says what about that guy, and he explains that, yeah, well, that's it. Chokeru punches the man, who is thrown back with force, causing destruction all around. Chokeru stares ahead, preparing for his next move. The image contains no characters or speech, showing only a plate with spilled sauce and a few pieces of food. The guy says he's lost in thought. The man says he personally made sure there would be no problems with him. The man says okay and orders them to go. The guy takes a step forward. The man says it's serious. A man asked Chokeru why he follows him around all the time. The man says that he was just going where his interlocutor was, and asks what he was talking about. Chokeru says he's not entirely sure, but he doesn't feel any energy in him anymore. He says that if he can't find a way to not die, then he won't be able to live. A man says a dog is an asshole and kicks another man. The man says that he thought his life would change with the arrival of Chokeru Ryugyom and that he was hoping for the sweet school days. He suddenly knocks the man down. The man says that this is fucking awesome. Chokeru says this is his reality. The man is shaking and sweating. The guy says he's not going to give up, and the man says he can't just leave. Chokeru says that is enough. The guy says he didn't expect to see such a person here, and the man says he came on important business. The man on the right explains that the situation requires an immediate solution. The girl says she thought he was Chokeru Gyom and asks if he was scared. Chokeru says he can't afford to lose. The woman says she's not tired of being bullied yet, and the man says that's enough already. The guy says that if he doesn't want to, Chokeru asks if the man wants to check. The man looks tense and sweating. The man says that the bitch. Chokeru tells him to go. The man says he didn't fall from above. The guy tells him to move and leave. The woman says he was late, and he says it was an unnecessarily dangerous action. Chokeru is silent. The girl asks if the boy is okay. The boy replies that he is. He says that now that he's learned about the ampoules and the medicine, the child is no longer of interest to him. The guy explains to the girl that if she doesn't want to be killed, she must obey. The man in a suit says they won't let anyone stop them. Chokeru says what will happen if she gets into a dangerous situation again and turns to his dear comrades who stood shoulder to shoulder with him. The girl says she was passing by and saw a fight, and Junil will continue to beat everyone when he doesn't see it. The woman says that everyone will be his victims, not just Moon Junho, and is sure that now he will be even more cruel and rude. Chokeru says there must be a solution. The man asks, a solution. He says that he needs to be humiliated enough to break him. Then he says that he needs to be humiliated. The guy tells Chokeru that he needs to beat up Jinil himself. Chokeru asks, what, himself? The man asks in surprise, what? The man says yes, it is him, and points his finger at another person. Chokeru asks if he can do it. The man says he will give strength. A boy holds a book with an image of a man in a fighting pose on the cover. The boy says that when he was in the 5th grade of elementary school, he was taller than all his peers. The guy says he's never been approached. The guy in the yellow t-shirt says enough is enough and demands everything back. Chokeru says he was the one who helped others. A man asks a guy if he wants to fight, and the guy agrees. The man says it was his first fight. The man reports that it happened. It's announced in plain sight that spring has arrived and the weather has warmed up. A man says his fate is already sealed, and another man explains that the other man is more annoying than he thought. The next page asks where Min Jung-ho is. A man clenches his fist, causing an explosion of particles around him. The man reports that everything was going fine until he was beaten up. First, the man reports that he thought that he could not think normally. Then the man explains that this happened because of a strong. The man reports that even after he came to his senses, it was already too late. The man says that a feeling had settled in everything, telling him that he would lose and that all his attacks would fail. Chokeru reports that he himself was severely beaten and couldn't breathe. His body was frozen with fear, and he couldn't think of anything better to do than simply wipe away the wounds. The man says he's a loser. The man says he doesn't know if it's a coincidence or not. The man explains he doesn't know if it's a coincidence or not. The guy tells Moon Junho, then reveals that he has stopped growing since then. The guy expresses bewilderment. Chokeru asks what happened, and the girl says that he passed out. He says he pressed on one of the acupuncture points. The man asks which points exactly. The guy says he's talking about those dots that constantly appear in all sorts of martial arts novels. The girl asks about martial arts novels. The girl says she doesn't know anything about it, but Chiok Ryugyom said that if you press a point in a certain place, your physical abilities will improve. Chokeru says he can deal with 100 students at once. The man says it's impossible. The man says he now understands why he suddenly felt changes in his body. There is no text or characters in the image, so there is no retelling. Chokeru says he's just doing his job, and the girl asks if he really has to walk her home. The girl says she'll leave as soon as she sees that she's inside and that they're almost there. She agrees, but with a caveat. Chokeru asks where the interlocutor lives. He says that in the blue house, and Chokeru says that it is nearby. He says that it is very far, and the girl says that then they will go with him. Chokeru says wow, and the girl asks why he is so surprised. He says the ice cream is sweeter than he expected, and explains that it is, and also reports that the other person looks like he's eating ice cream for the first time in his life. The woman says the man might be from the past and asks if he's hiding something from her. The man responds by asking what he's hiding. The woman explains that his fascination with acupuncture points is strange and asks if he doesn't understand it, adding that he doesn't talk like everyone else. The man says, "Ha!" The girl says that if you think about it, Chokuyu says that. He says he's addressing girls. The woman says it's dangerous to walk around the area at this time and advises people to go home quickly. Chokuryu says girls, after which he pushes the girl, who falls and screams. He asks if the woman is okay. The girl says she bruised her tailbone. Chokuryu says it's ugly and asks if normal boys these days have such long hair. The man agrees and thinks about it every time he sees it. He says the girl has suffered enough. He holds a cartridge in his hand. The image does not show any characters or speech, only the book with an image of a man in a fighting stance on the cover. A manga with a dark closed character on the cover lies on the table. A man wearing glasses looks at the manga with his head tilted down. The guy says that he definitely said that he would gain power, but he is not sure about it. The man says he can't believe it happened. A man delivers a powerful blow to the chest of a young man who screams in pain. The wall shows Junho's height and age at 3 different ages, 6, 7, and 8. The guy reports that his height has still not changed. The guy says he's still the same. The image shows the building from above, without characters or text. The girl says that she came early. The girl asks what it is. Chokuryu says that if he can't find a way, he will die, and that he doesn't want to die. The guy asks the girl if she took her hair off because of yesterday. Chokuryu says he stabbed them because he got hot and suggests that it still bothered his interlocutor. The girl explains that there's no one here, and from here she can see what's going on in the classroom. The man asks why she asked him to come here, and the girl clarifies that this is the classroom. The girl asks if Chokuryu really wants to watch whether Junho will resist or not. Chokuryu answers that this is exactly it. He says it will only work if he's not there. The girl asks why he invited her, and he explains that he thinks she would have interfered. The man says they will be watching. The image contains no text or speech from the characters, but shows a moving flip-flop. The boy says that if he can't win, he'll leave school. Chokuryu says he's not going to let him go that easily. The man explains that if he loses, he'll leave school. The guy says that if you bring him a slipper, he will return the phone back, and asks what the interlocutor is doing, since he wants to take the phone back. The man says grab it with your teeth like a dog, and bring it to him. The boy speaks quietly so that Chokuryu won't hear, and the man says that when Chokuryu isn't around, Chokuryu Gyoma behaves the same way as before. A man asks what he thinks Moon Junho will do. The girl says she's lost in thought. The guy says that even if he believed the words of the interlocutor, it is not easy to suddenly become brave. The guy says he doesn't think he can. The guy says he will actually give the phone back after he brings the slipper, and reminds him that he has done this before. Chokuryu says he's asking if the other person really thinks that way. The man says he thinks otherwise and abruptly throws down his chair. A guy gets hit in the face with a sneaker. Chokuryu says that if he fails to win, he will die. He explains that in that case, his body will be destroyed and his soul will disappear. The guy says to give the phone back. The man calls Moon Junho a thick-headed bastard, and Chokuryu tells Jin-il not to interfere, he can handle it himself. The guy asks if Chokuryu is hiding somewhere nearby and covering his back, or if he has grown balls. The guy says he wants to end it. The man asks what exactly. Chokuryu is trembling. The door is marked with Junho's height at 19, 8, and 7 years old. Chokuryu says he will end this. The man reports that with their murk, the man says he will end their little world. The girl says that this is indeed the Moon Junho she knew, and notes that his balls have actually grown. The man stands silently nearby. The boy says he'll fight Kim Chong-won first, and notices how many students have gathered around. Chokuryu asks Ryugyom if everything will be okay. The guy asks if he can really handle them like he said. The guy says it's impossible. The girl says it's impossible. The guy explains it's impossible. The man says it's impossible. Chokuryu says of course not. He says his acupuncture points still need a lot of work. The man says that his interlocutor is just some kind of clown. The boy yells and hits the man in the shoulder. A man says, "Come on," while simultaneously punching another man in the stomach. A man shouts at Junho. A guy says he makes another guy run by calling him a shit-slinger while punching him in the face. The guy in the red jacket tells Chokuryu to take it easy or he'll lose all his teeth. The guy says that now that he's been spanked well, he's come to his senses, right, and calls the other guy a bastard and a fucker. The man tells the other person to get up and calls him a son of a bitch, then says they're not finished yet. The guy explains that there's no point in fighting over such trivial matters and asks them to stop. The man says he's not going to apologize and that it's not his fault. The man says to say, cheese cheese, and promises to fix his smile. The man says yours. The girl asks Chokeru if he is serious and why he lied to him. He says that fear and courage are opposite feelings, but they have a common source. Chokeru says Vera, simultaneously stabbing the man in the stomach. The man reacts to the blow. The man says that if you overcome this, the man says that then he will be able to activate the courage point. The man screams that it hurts. The boy says that true courage can only be found by believing in yourself. Chokeru falls to the floor after being hit by another boy, surrounded by several students and a girl watching the scene. The guy says Junho beat him, and the girl says it's incredible. The man reports that Changwon passed out. The guy asks if it happened from one blow. The image contains no text or speech. The man lies with his eyes closed and a bandage over his face. The guy asks who's next. A man talks about Gina. The guy says his name was called and kicks the man. The man reports that Jin-il is on a whole other level. The guy tells the whore to get rid of him, and the man agrees with Jin-il. The guy says that yet. The guy says that Chokeru seems to have acquired some stubbornness somewhere. The man says that a guy with bruises on his face screams at them not to look down on him and rushes forward with his fist at Chokeru. A man delivers a powerful kick to a boy, causing him to fly back and crash into some lockers. The boy tells Chokeru that this brings back memories from his past and asks if he still hasn't realized this since elementary school. The guy says he's a fucking moron and hits him on the head. The man says that everything was fine and went on as usual, and asks at what point he started showing off, and then calls his interlocutor a cowardly wretch. The guy says, oh, and reports that, wow. The boy says, stop. Several students in school uniforms look surprised and tense. Chokeru says that is enough. The man tells Moon Junho that he can't handle an opponent like him yet. Chokeru says the interlocutor lied. He says he is a liar. The guy says all that nonsense about acupuncture points was a lie. The guy asks what the jerk is talking about and says he thinks it all smells bad. The man explains that when he hit him, his hands hurt more than usual. Chokeru says he realized one thing. The guy says he always had the opportunity to change. The man says he asks for some time. The guy says that it looks like he is. The guy says you won't know if you win or lose, and that he's not finished yet. The man says that you need to believe in yourself. The guy says he doesn't understand what's going on. The guy says that the atmosphere is strange, as if he will fight with Junho again. A guy punches a man in the face. The man says, is that even possible? The guy reports that the other person understood everything correctly. The man says the guy is a dumbass. The man says that the interlocutor is a cretin. The man says he thought this would work. The man makes sounds of pain and surprise when struck. The guy reports that the sound was exactly as it should be, and the man asks if it sounded like a hard hit. The guy says he's acting weird and asks if he passed out while standing up. The guy reports that blood is flowing from his nose. The man says the boy fell asleep. The guy says that this is all worth picking on, after which he kicks the man, who falls backwards. The guy says it's serious. Chokeru says his interlocutor turned out to be stronger than he thought. The man is standing, leaning on his knees, breathing heavily. The image does not contain text or speech from the characters, only showing their legs in motion. Chokeru says he has no intention of giving up. He says that they shouldn't say that it was he who shared this power with him. Chokeru says Junho. The man says that the other person hasn't gotten it yet. The guy says that once a moron, he remains a moron forever. A man delivers a powerful punch. Chokeru delivers a powerful blow to the man's stomach. The guy asks if it worked. The girl says what it was. The man silently looks forward. The man explains that if Chokeru is not stopped, he will destroy everyone dear to him, and Chokeru says that he is not going to stop and is ready to go to the end. The boy explains that if he can't win, he'll leave school, and the man says he's not going to let him leave. The man says his nose started bleeding. The man delivers a powerful punch to Chokeru. A guy punches a man in the stomach, and the man tries to defend himself with his hand. Chokeru delivers a powerful punch to the opponent's face. The man struggles to speak, making hoarse sounds. A man places his hands on another man's head. Chokeru lands a powerful punch on the man, who falls to the floor. The guy asks if it's really Moon Junho, and the girl asks if he threw it over himself. The man says that he just defeated Oh Jin-il and states that he knew he could win with that power. The guy says he didn't mean to kill anyone and asks not to be called a murderer. The man explains he didn't mean to kill and asks not to be called a murderer. A group of people in the background say the guy beat the man and that he killed him. The guy says he won. The man says that it hurts and expresses pain. The guy says he's not here yet, which is weird because he asked to come to the roof himself. The man says he feels better and asks if his interlocutor feels better. The man says mentor, and the boy replies that he feels very well and from today on he will call the man mentor. Chokeru says, well, he says that the man's movements momentarily seemed like qigong, but in reality it wasn't him, but something similar. The man expresses bewilderment. The guy explains that he was imitating some moves from a manhwa. The man asks what a manhwa is. The guy explains that it's a modern version of martial arts techniques, and the man clarifies that it's kind of like that. The man thanks him and asks if it is right that Chokeru temporarily shared his power with him. The man asks if he felt anything and if he realized the effect was temporary. The guy reports that, unfortunately, judging by his feelings, he is returning to his previous state. Chokeru listens. He says he's upset even though he was able to defeat Jin-il, and the other character replies that of course not. The man says that anyone in his place would want to have such power and asks if it is really true. The man says that in this case he can allow himself to acquire it, and the man expresses surprise. The man says that he has a condition, Chokeru must help him. He says there won't be any problems with this, and the man says it's nonsense. The guy says that of course he will help, because a student should help the teacher. The guy says it's serious. The man tells you to follow him. The guy says it's so easy to follow him into the abyss. The guy says he can't believe it happened. The guy says that this teacher is apparently one of those who prefers harsh methods. An egg is being fried in a frying pan. The guy says it's time for him to get up. The guy calls Park Min-guk and says that he doesn't answer him. The man says that the sun will soon put a hole in his interlocutor's head, and then says that he is tired of messing with him like a little one. The man says that's enough, and it's time to get up. The guy says, what the heck? Chokeru stands silently. The sound of trembling can be heard. He says to speak. Chokeru says to continue. He says he is ready to cooperate. The man says he's willing to cooperate and asks if the other person can hear him, who says they can hear him perfectly well. The man asks what happened and utters the word, damn. The guy says he needs help. The man reports that his little one has gotten worse. He can't even get up, although he was fine just a couple of days ago, and he doesn't understand what happened. A man asks for help. The man says his little one is everything to him. Chokeru says he doesn't know if he feels better after telling everyone about it, and says that he will send the number anyway, and asks to call it. The phone screen displays the caller's number and the call time of 01021, and call control icons are visible, mute, keypad, volume, add call, video call, and contacts. Chokeru says they have reached an agreement. He says that knives must be sharp. Chokeru says he will try to help. The man says he understands, boss. Chokeru says that this is how. He says that such serious problems are because of a girl named Min Dul Lee. The guy asks who she is, and at the same time wonders what's wrong with her. The woman asks what his daughter asked for. The man says his daughter encourages him and tells him to hit rather than freeze in place. The man says he catches on quickly, asks if she is with them now, and says that they must love their daughter because they listen to her. The man says he ordered Daehan to deal with the problem, but he lied to him. Chokeru says that he just recently saw his younger brother and asks what Daehan is doing. He says, oh shit! The woman asks what's going on there. The man says that this problem needs to be taken care of in general. Chokeru says they need to shake things up. The woman says that everything is ready. There is no text or characters on the image, only ampoules in the packaging. The man says they have 1,000 doses of the new drug and are finally starting to distribute it. The man reports that the effect is excellent and the addiction is quick. He also says that the demand is already off the charts. Chokeru says it won't be long before it happens. He says the whole world will be on the needle. It is reported that this is the sports complex of Yeojun High School. The guy asks if this is really the right place. Chokeru says he doesn't understand why he's here. The image contains no text or speech, only a close-up of the character's eye. The man asks who is here. Chokeru says, what's the matter? The woman says the man is dumber than she expected. The woman says she called on the phone. The man says that, however. The guy asks how the lady can help him. Chokeru says he wants to dance. The man asks what kind. The woman says he is defenseless against her. Yoon Hai states his name, and the woman asks what his name is. Chokeru says, A man says he feels something familiar, then reacts to it. He asks what he's doing. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he'll die and asks not to interfere. The man says he has no intention of interfering and suggests they begin. The woman says he was right and the drug does exist. The man says that since Chokeru has gained power, he will have to put up with it, and says that he has already told him everything. The man says he was told someone was looking into something and asks when Chokeru will arrive. The woman says she is. The image shows legs stepping forward. A man walks down the corridor. Chokeru says that everything seems to be in place and apologizes for being late. The woman says she can't believe this happened and asks what to do now. The man says she needs to stay calm and follow the plan. Chokeru says he should have cut his hair. He tells Yun that he looks like a modern man and asks him what he thinks about it. The woman says she doesn't understand why he suddenly decided to cut his hair, and Chokeru says he went to the barber in the middle of the night. The man says he thought all this time that he didn't care about this generation. The man states that if he wants to challenge Yan and others in this century, the guy says he has to do it his way. Chokeru says, you need to become your own person for this time and place. He says they are playing a serious game by spreading a very dangerous thing around the world. A man and woman report that although they may not look like they belong, they share a common goal. Chokeru says that he says that he will have to save the world. A man and a woman listen to him. Chokeru says, what? He says they will try to save the world. The guy says that before this, the woman asks if Yan is back. The woman asks if she has met him. The woman says that she only felt his power. The woman says what is happening. The man Chokeru asks what exactly. The man tells them to stop and asks if they know who this energy belongs to. Chokeru says they need to hurry. The woman says they're on their way. The man says that he only needs to save his younger brother and that it doesn't matter anyway. The man reports seeing him. Chokeru says he hasn't found a way to help him. He says that properties have mixed together that weren't there before. The man asks what this means and whether the interlocutor knows anything. Chokeru says that the nature of the new drug needs to be clarified, and that is the main thing. A woman reports hearing about the mass production of new ampules. A man asks if these are new ampules. Chokeru says that these are enhanced strength ampules, which means they are also more dangerous. He asks if they can be found so his brother can be saved. Chokeru says he can't afford to be weak. He reports that no hospital was able to help. The guy says it's not just a burn, but something else. Chokeru says that this is understandable. He says, thank you. Chokeru says something has appeared. The woman says she wants to know if the other person knows where the new ampules are. Chokeru reports that this information is not disclosed. Teams are only given ready-made ampules for transportation. The woman says she'll start with the main thing, through this guy. The man listens. The woman says that this is not right, and the man asks why. Chokeru says their goal is to destroy it. He says that bosses can also be someone's pawns. The woman says, and says it's too hasty. Chokeru agrees and says he'll then look for a way from within himself. The woman says that she might have to climb from the bottom up and reports that it will be a hassle. Chokeru says there is something he didn't say. The woman says she doesn't want him and her boyfriend to get hurt because of her and asks them not to interfere. He explains he has no intention of intervening, but warns that if anyone harms the woman, he will not stand by. The boyfriend says he understands the situation and is ready to support them. Chokeru says he doesn't understand. There is no text or speech bubbles in the image, so there is no retelling. The man says that the headman should say hello and asks what he is doing there. The guy asks what happened, and Chokeru says that the headman is absent today. The woman says that Park Min-guk is absent, and the girl says that it is such a day. The guy says he's embarrassed to go out and laughs, adding that Janelle is also absent. The man says he probably is. The guy explains that greetings are being skipped today and asks for a quieter tone. Chokeru says his name. The girl says that he is not the type to miss work due to illness and asks if he knows anything. The woman says he's lying, and the man says he doesn't know. The girl says she's worried. The man asks if he's worried. The guy says he'll be back soon. The man says that. A man is lying on a bed, sweating heavily and shaking. A man lies on a pillow with his eyes closed, covered in sweat. Chokeru says that, phew. The man says that in this condition, it won't get any worse and he'll just sleep for a few days. The girl says he knows something and demands he speak quickly. The man remains silent. The girl says she doesn't understand. The man covers her mouth with his hand. The guy says someone is coming. The girl says Mindiat and at the same time asks if it is Mindil. The girl says it's Shion. The girl says everything is fine and she told him everything, and the guy asks what they were doing there together. The man remains silent. Chokeru asks if the girl told everything, and does this mean that there is something special between them? The girl replies that of course. A girl says they're best friends, and another girl asks what? The first girl explains that they're the closest of friends. Chokeru says to wait. The girl says that this is the first time they've met properly. The girl says hello. The girl says, The girl asks why he looks like that. The guy is silent. Chokeru says that there is something he did not tell and explains that on the orders of the boss, they tried to kill him and Mindil. He says that the original target was Mindil and it all ended up being a false report. But the man asks what? The man explains who this boss is and why he's hunting this kid. Chokeru says he doesn't know for sure, but most likely. The girl reports that it was a request from someone he couldn't refuse. A man whispers something in a girl's ear. Chokeru says that if he can't win, he will die. The woman says that if he doesn't want her to leave, he should say so directly. She explains that she doesn't want him to suffer because of her and asks him not to do that. The woman says she doesn't understand what's happening. A man asks Chokeru if he said the word Shin correctly. A girl screams Shin's name. Another girl and a guy run after her. The man says that if he leaves, it will all be over and asks her not to go. The woman says she can't stay and that this is the end. The man explains that he can't let her go and asks her not to go. The woman asks if Chokeru has learned anything about the boss. Chokeru says that, yes. The man says that his last name is not Choi by any chance, and he asks how he knows that. The woman says it's amazing and turns to the man she's talking to, calling him you. Chokeru says he remembers Choi Kyung. The top shot shows a broken tree. In the lower shot, several armored warriors lie on the ground, one struggling to rise, while another hangs from a tree branch. A man walks away along a forest path, and 3 fallen warriors in armor lie on the ground. The guy asks about Choi Kyung's beast. The woman says yes. The man says yes, of course, one of OK Yeon's people. The man says he is now the president of CK Shields. The man reports that he is under the name Choi Jungwon. Choi Jungwon tells him to bring some food.